Hi. I would like to thank Frank Stevens, Eric Young, Zach Alderman, Ronald Lewis, and Third Seconds. All of these people have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us a couple of bucks a month. Thank you so much. You can be like these nice people by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. It is a simple and easy way to support this network and all that we do. Yeah. Additionally, you have a little bit of time to go to Duckfest, August 31st in Portland, Oregon. This is 2019. If you're listening in the future, August 31st, 2019, for a full day of podcasts. $15 at the Clinton Street Theater. Go to duckfeed.tv/Duckfest to get your tickets now.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are continuing our discussion of Final Fantasy V, which is a JRPG developed and published by Square for the Super Famicom in 1992.
Yeah. Of course, we both played the GBA version.
Mm-hmm.
So, for people out there. And yeah, go back and listen to our last episode. We always say that. I don't think there's any danger that someone is starting with a part 2. You're not an idiot. You know how numbers work.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, you had to buy that phone with money and stuff. Use numbers, things like, how numbers work. But this will make a lot more sense if you listen to the last episode.
Yes. The last episode where we covered the generalities of the game and also the first world. We ended that, our party had, failed to save all the crystals. Exdeath came out and said, yo, what up? And went back to Galuf's world. Galuf and Kryl, I'm settling on that, said, hey, we need to go back there and stop him. You guys keep it chill here. But Bartz, Lenna, and Faris could not keep it chill. So they powered up some meteor with a juice, and they hopped into the portal themselves, waving goodbye to the world they knew.
Bartz certainly has zero chill.
Yeah,
it's like one of the things you can say about him. So with our 3-person party, we start off on this island, and the game wants you to rest here. And the way they do that is by making every enemy on the island drop a tent.
Yes.
Which is some weird fucking signaling to just why wouldn't this just be a cutscene when you land on the island? Why did you need me to do a fucking tent? So weird.
I don't know. I just like the idea that this used to be a Dick's Sporting Good or an REI before the split.
That gigantic, that pyramid.
Yeah.
The gigantic sports pyramid that exists.
Yeah.
And just unfortunately it blew up into a bunch of tents and everything. If you wanted to, you could farm for tents here because the battles are pretty easy. Because I didn't remember that I needed to rest when I got here, so I was waiting for a timed trigger to move me forward, and eventually I rested just because I had been fighting a bunch of these creatures. When you do, you're attacked by a creature called an abductor, and you get abducted.
Yeah, these are the flying monkeys that are sent out to come grab you because Exdeath, he's back in his old stomping grounds. And you wake up in a cell in his castle. And this is where we really start to meet Exdeath and get a sense of what his general demeanor is. Every single text box that he creates just has the words "mwahaha" written in it.
Yeah. He's so this is the thing, and also buckle up, right? Whenever we do one of the JRPG episode, people get mad at us, and because we don't like the same things that they like.
Yes.
Right. See that ProZD, opinions on the internet.
Yes.
Sketch, which is perennially true. Mm-hmm. I like this half of the game less than I like the first half of it.
Yeah.
And part of it is because they're introducing this character thing. And the thing with Exdeath, right? So like last episode, we stumbled upon that really good pitch for Final Fantasy V that the game doesn't bear out, which is that like what happens to a world that like a demon gets banished to. Here, when we start actually learning about Exdeath's motivations and stuff and how he wants Null, like he's this ultimate nihilist and stuff, that does not comport with cackling evilly.
No.
Like he's too malicious for somebody who wants nothing.
And he's just generally drawn very broad. He doesn't have anything interesting to say.
There's no philosophy behind him, and it doesn't. What philosophy you can imagine does not match his character.
No.
And so this is like all the dialogue with him is kind of horseshit. Like it's none of it. He doesn't say anything cool. There's like a part where he's like, your insides can be exposed to the air or something like that.
Yes.
I can't remember what the exact phrasing is, but he says it twice in like the same paragraph, like somebody who's like, didn't think you heard them when they made a joke.
Yeah.
You know, like he's just small time. You know, he sounds like a henchman.
Yes.
And then this should be like, there should be a real character who's controlling this guy or something. And it just doesn't happen. I know that's weird for us to want because that's a problem with Final Fantasy games, but it's so he's just cackling maniacally, like just very evil on the face of it.
Yeah.
He's a Silver Age comic book villain.
This very much could be a result of just bad translation or localization.
The GBA translation is supposed to be very good,
but
like,
I don't know.
It's not perfect, but it's supposed to be very good.
It just like I have no idea if in the original text he is characterized with any more genuine menace. You know, like the GBA translation, and I've not played the fan translation, so I don't have it for comparison. That's generally considered to be the best one. I don't know if the GBA one, which is done by the same people who did the GBA port or translation for 4, if that has, like, both of them have this just thin layer of frosting, which is just, super goofy humor attached to it.
Yeah.
I have no idea if Exdeath's characterization is a casualty of that. But
I don't know for sure either.
So little there.
Regardless of which, he doesn't get a lot of lines. He doesn't get a lot of backstory. That's particularly interesting. And here he's again just kind of cackling us, taunting us, etc. He weirdly
uses a mirror to broadcast our hostage video, because we arrived in the middle of this siege on his castle as Galuf's army is, charging across the big bridge.
Yes.
So he casts our image up into the sky to say, "Look who I have, Galuf."
Yeah, Galuf has been busy.
Yes.
Since we sent him back, he has started his actual assault on Exdeath. Because he broadcast this hostage video, basically, Galuf decides to rescue us. He rides a Windrake to get to us, and we get this brief segment where we're just playing as Galuf. Which is kind of interesting. Like it's balanced to be very easy. Like there's a thing they do later where they take away party members where I think they for too long and they don't balance it.
Yeah.
Here at the very least they know like, hey, you could have been building Galuf up as your like white mage healer. We're not gonna this is not the time for rigor.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get a boss fight against Gilgamesh.
Right. Gilgamesh is a good character. I like Gilgamesh. Yeah. He is very charming. And while also still being an archetype, right? Like he's just a guy who lives for the fight. He's a big dummy, and is a comic relief character. But we've seen him at Exdeath's side here earlier in this section, and he comes down to fight, and it's really just a melee fight between him and Galuf.
There's a reason why Gilgamesh is the character that is brought forward from this game, right? Like there are jobs and kind of aesthetics and things that are referenced later.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy, right? Like you end up with like Riku, who basically has the chemist moveset.
Yeah.
From this. But Gilgamesh is the recurring character, and also we're going to run into another thing. But a couple like Final Fantasy standbys come from this, and Gilgamesh is one of them.
Yes.
And rightfully so, right? Gilgamesh is fun.
Yes.
You fight him. After you take him out, and again, there's nothing really to it. You just fight. You walk out. You rescue the people. Your rest of your team already. You walk out the front door, go up to this the big bridge, right? And fight several waves of monsters before Gilgamesh shows up again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we've been hearing during the entire assault, the battle on the big bridge. I mean, obviously, what else is there to say about Battle at the Big Bridge in terms of a music track? You heard it, like I use that as the intro song for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. It has a couple different like movements in it or whatever. It changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like very dynamic.
Yeah.
In a way that I really appreciate. Yeah. And just that the organ in the beginning, that prog rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the crazy trills. Arpeggiator. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, really, really, really great track. Like probably a top 10 Final Fantasy track for me. Like it's so good.
Yes.
The way this bridge works is really interesting as you're walking up the bridge, because enemies will pop up from off the bridge to fight you. I didn't find this out until I was researching later, but this is associated with tiles that you step on. You can get through this whole thing without getting in any fights if you just avoid certain tiles. Like certain tiles are trap tiles.
That is one of the cool things about these games being so popular, and this one having been around for so long, is just that people have discovered that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I had no idea that was how that worked.
Yeah, like there's nothing, it doesn't change how you play. Like it's still probably best just to go in a straight line and run into a few fights, because that's the dramatic beats, right?
Yeah.
That you're fighting on your way out. But if you want to, you don't have to.
Yeah. It just, if you're a person who likes knowing that information exists.
It's interesting.
Yeah. The fight with Gilgamesh with your whole party is not terribly different. Like he's a bit of a pushover until about halfway through, when he he does this thing where he's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so tough," and then he puts up buffs, like he puts up shell and protect, and then he starts doing jump attacks, which is pretty bad.
It looks very goofy because his sprite doesn't move. So it looks like action, like somebody picking up an action figure and making it jump on another action figure.
It looks like he has to return to his home planet.
It comes up. But it's a better fight than the first one.
Yeah.
Not a terrible fight. And you can't kill him. He gives it, once you do enough damage, he flees. Yeah. When you get to the end, Exdeath puts up a big barrier around his castle, which begs the question why he didn't have this barrier up before.
Maybe because he just got back. He just woke up, Yeah,
I guess he did wake up. And this expands, kills a lot of troops as it pushes through them, and throws us across the world. Like pushes us off. And this is the reason why we can't just go to this castle, during this thing. We have to work on this barrier, basically.
Yeah.
We head to a town called Regol, and when we rest at the inn, Galuf gets up at night, and then Bartz gets up and follows him.
Yeah.
There's more of these like inn conversations in this game than there were in 4. Like in 4, there's the very famous one with Edward,
right?
In the desert town, that first desert town. Here it happens a lot more frequently in this game, which is kind of good. Like it's not. I like this method of storytelling, even if I don't love the story it's telling. Right? With these things. So Bartz gets up and follows him, and they talk about the battle they just had and do some soldier talk.
Yeah. Well, and also Galuf, like he gets up explicitly to go drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, the most charismatic member of our party for sure.
Absolutely, and of course he's the one who has to die.
Yep.
So we leave here, and the only path out of this town is through a forest. We reach a small forest, and we get in, and we meet our first Moogle.
And not just our first in the game, the first one in the series.
Gonna have to.
Is that true?
That is not true.
I thought they appeared here.
I just pulled this up because I figured that might have been what you were doing, and I was unsure. Their first appearance was in Final Fantasy 2.
3 and the NES one.
Yeah.
Not in 2, in 3.
No.
Did you say? Oh,
yeah. They were in 2.
They're in 2.
Yeah.
It says 3 on
the Final Fantasy wiki.
Recurring first appeared in Final Fantasy 3.
Down here, appearances in Final Fantasy II. The Moogle was first created as a race called Cryon that lived in cold regions. So they weren't called Moogles, but they had the same Moogle design.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
This wiki is horseshit, because in the very first paragraph it says 3.
Yeah. If you go down to appearances, it says Final Fantasy II. Again,
which one is it?
They were first called Moogles in Final Fantasy III, but the design is used in 2.
Yeah. The sprite and details evolved into the beaver race. Oh, no, that's in an earlier version. So they were scrapped in Final Fantasy 2. They didn't first appear in Final Fantasy 2. So if you look at the thing on the right, those are the prototype versions. It says first appeared along with several other races, but then were scrapped The sprite and details were evolved into the beaver race in Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah.
So, and the cutting room floor in 2, for real in 3.
But for certain, not used for the first time in 5.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was 5. So it's another mark against 5. What are you contributing to the canon 5?
Yeah, real-time research rules.
Yeah, I was certain it was, though. It was certain it was the first time. It is the first time they've shown up, like when this showed up in America. It was like the first time they showed up in America. So it was the first time that I could have seen them.
The first time they showed up in America was 6.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
FF3.
Yeah, shit. Well, the earliest chronological time that they showed, pre-taped call-in show. Yeah. Right? The
Final Fantasy 3 never came out in the States until the DS version.
Until the DS version. Yeah. Which it would actually be the first one. So, or 2 if you're hacking the ROM files.
Yeah.
Regardless, they're critters.
We are wrapped around the axle, Gary.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, they're little teddy bears with bat wings, and they got Bilbo Bobbles coming up off their head.
Moogles are cool.
Yeah,
Moogles are cute. We reach one, we watch it fall through the sinkhole, and we follow it to rescue it, and we're in a water cave.
Yeah,
here, which is another conveyor belt. Dungeon, basically.
Yeah, I was so irritated. Anytime where I cannot control my movement, please do not give me random battles. Yeah. It seems like it ought to be really super simple.
Yeah. Yep. And again, this is an articulation of bad JRPG dungeons, where this actually does both, where you're kind of solving a puzzle to make the way forward, to choose which water path, and you're trying to optimize it so you get treasure. You can't see the end of these different conveyor belts. Right. So you're just making a guess, and then while you're thinking about it, still being interrupted by random battles. Yeah. So just absolute trash as a dungeon. We get our first pudding type enemies, and I don't care if they're the first ones in the series or not.
Yeah, the first ones of the game.
They're in 4. Yeah, they're the first ones in the game. They're in 4. Yeah. So you guys remember these flans? A classic Final Fantasy enemy. They tend to have an elemental affiliation and be very resistant to physical damage.
Yes. These ones I think are aspects, which is fun.
Yeah, they're pretty gross.
Antiquated meat jello.
Yep. Tomato pudding.
At the end, the Moogle is facing down a boss here, the Tyrannosaur. I'm sure there are tactics for this, but it is a giant dinosaur skull. So you just throw a phoenix down at it or cast rays and it dies. So, yeah.
Yep, you can kill undead, and again, that's one of the good things about this game is that enemies tend to follow the same rules.
Yes.
You do. So then we get to the Moogle takes us to the Moogle village. Where we have to go here. I didn't get the costume in this. I missed something, so I didn't end up getting into all the houses.
Oh yeah.
I just ended up doing the critical path, not on purpose. I wasn't trying to rush it. I just didn't click on the right spot and do
it just looks like a Moogle that is standing at the back of an otherwise empty house. Yeah, but then you climb inside of it and you walk around, and I think that's how you get one of the elven males or whatever it is. Good armor that lets you makes it gives you a high evasion rate. The Moogle whose guardian gives it to you because they fall in love with you in the suit.
Sad. Yeah, it's like Daffy Duck or like Roger when Elmer Fudd fell in love with a Elmer Fudd made of dynamite.
Yep.
Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you can go talk to the Moogle, and I forgot that this was a skill that Moogles have because they never have it elsewhere. Moogles in this world, in this game, they are telepathically linked, so they technically have a hive mind.
Yeah, it makes sense for those little antennas they have.
True.
So like I assume that Moogles are little Wi-Fi hotspots. Basically, you would just have you'd open up your your phone and just be like Kupu, Kopopu, Mupu, Kupupu, and just be like, well, shit, which of these do I choose? Which is the highest bars, And then as you gain society, you get higher bars. They have a stronger signal, and they all worship the mighty 5G. At the top,
and that's why they act as mail carriers too, just general information routers,
email carriers. So they can telepathically talk. So when you talk to him, he talks to Kryl, who has a Moogle,
right?
Kind of conveniently, who says that you're trapped here.
It's a house Moogle. Keep him around.
House Moogle.
Yeah, like a house elf. Yeah. But saying like, hey, here's where we're at, and so now whenever the Windrake comes out, there's an awful lot of hand wringing about whether or not we're tiring the poor fella out.
This again, I know this is gonna sound nitpicky, but drove me nuts because like he's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with us like sleeping for a night and then him showing up in the morning instead of like risking it? Yeah, we're not in danger.
We're in
like,
the fucking Ewok village.
Are we in danger? Is it in the implication that the Mughals are going to expose us to the dark web through their Wi-Fi? Like, I just don't know what we're in danger of. Like, why not just wait a minute? But there are all these manufactured like dramatic situations with the Windrake that could be just solved if you just chilled out and didn't act like an idiot.
Yeah.
You know.
And here's us asking for a lack of urgency, whereas we spent a lot of the last episode asking for more urgency. However, it is bad and dumb.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah.
They're different things because the one, there's like a major, not just a character that our characters love, but a major strategic advantage, right? Being able to fly around on the Windrake that you're risking for this. And we've already we sleep all the time. Like I guarantee between now and when we actually do the assault, there's going to be some, some lack of urgency stuff. So just it's inconsistent choosing.
Yeah, we sleep all the time, and they hit the same note, like to the point where I feel like the Windrake is supposed to represent something. And we get a cutscene a little bit later that kind of explains a little bit why Lenna's hung up on it. But yeah, it just they really, really wring their hands on it. And it doesn't seem to add up to anything.
Doesn't and tired is not that big of a threat to me.
Right.
Like exhausted is such an easy fix that it doesn't sell the drama very well.
Do you think that's just PR talk? Do you think that the Windrake is actually in rehab?
It could be like Charlie Sheen, the Windrake. Like, just, I'm checking in.
We're canceling. I want to. When I grow up, I want to go to the Betty Ford Clinic. No, just Windrake has to cancel the rest of his tour because of exhaustion.
Like regular Drake.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about Drake.
Yeah,
just, the idea of there being the rapper Drake and then the rapper Windrake, Windrake, Fire Drake, Ice Drake. It's very funny to me.
Yeah.
So exhausted Windrake comes and picks you up, but again, tons of hand wringing, like almost kills him.
Yeah.
Right. Here's when Bartz finds out that Galuf is the king.
Yeah.
And there's some comedy beats about that, like, oh, I can't believe you're the king, old man. Whoa, you whippersnapper. That kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
And the idea is to try to get to that castle to assault Exdeath, getting through this barrier at a weak point.
Right.
However, they need the Windrake for that. They just foolishly spent him. Like all this time that they're spending to go get the dragon grass, they could have just let the Windrake take a nap. They're right there, solved.
Yep.
Instead, though, they have to go get more dragon grass.
Right.
So this game is sponsored by Dragon Grass.
And something we did in the first half of the game. We've got to go, to Drakenvale, to this world's equivalent of the Northern Mountain, to get this world's version of dragon grass.
Yeah. Yep. So we leave the castle. A lot of hand wringing about this as well. Like there are the enemy army is at the gates. If we leave, it's like, hey, don't let us back in, no matter how much we beg. And we head outside. We do a quick fight, and then head north to the village of Quelb, which is where the werewolves live.
Yeah. The werewolves live under the dominion of their leader Kelger. Who used to roll around with Galuf. Kelger was one of the original New Dawn warriors.
Roll around like you just like wear them out. You just wrestle them on the carpet,
just burn off some of that energy.
Gotta run them out like a terrier.
No, Kelger was part of the party that sealed Exdeath on our home planet. Yeah.
And when we show up, Kelger fights us.
Yeah, he thinks that because we are from World A, we where Exdeath was sealed, we must be in line with Exdeath.
Yes, one bad apple, spoils the bunch, I guess.
Yeah.
If you put the bad apple in there. So you do a fight where it's basically just the sprites banging against each other and throwing each other against walls.
Yeah. I really prefer when Final Fantasy doesn't do this. Like it just, if there is any combat, put it in the combat engine. Yeah.
I think it would look cooler. Yeah. However, Kelger recognizes Bart's technique because Bartz injures him. Like seriously injures him, and he recognizes like, hey, I know that wrestle style.
Bartz kills this man.
Okay, he does die.
Yeah.
So he is going to die. Bartz does kill one of the legendary warriors of light, which, like, what a great twist it would be if Bartz was the actual string puller from the beginning. Like, all of his bad decisions were to sabotage us from the start.
Mm.
He's like, oh, I recognize how you wrestle. You must be the son of Dorgan. And he's like, well, my dad was named Dorgan. And everyone, oh my God. So that's Bart's connection. He's the son of one of the legendary warriors.
Yeah. So Bartz is like Cecil in terms of being the son of an alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we get this flashback to, when they had Exdeath on the ropes, but they realized, hey, we can't destroy him. All we can do right now is use the crystals of this world to reconstruct the seal and keep him there. Dorgan doesn't want this to happen. No
shit. Like, I mean, it's a pretty monstrous act that is not.
Oh, it certainly is. Well, like last episode, we didn't really talk like they addressed that.
Yeah.
So Dorgan says, hey, you guys go. I met a lady, so that's fine. I'll stay here and keep watch over the crystals. That way I can at least assuage my conscience over this war crime.
Yeah. And because he's in love with a lady.
Yeah.
He wants to make a Bartz. So that's kind of gives us some more backstory. And we get a key to leave the village.
Yes. As the mayor dies.
Yep. As the mayor dies from wrestle.
Yep.
He'd been wrestled too hard.
Yes.
Ultimate kayfabe. So we're heading up to Drakenvale. The mountain itself is just kind of a dungeon.
Yeah.
There are lots of undead enemies here, some of which are very tough, but undead creatures that tend to be like, if you have that kind of brush you're painting a dungeon's enemies with, like, that's good.
Yeah.
Because it gives everyone kind of common weaknesses. Your white mage can be a big damage dealer.
Yeah.
Here, you still have not unlocked Curaga, but you can Cura enemies for pretty big damage. So
yeah. Occasionally, as you're going around, you get into an encounter with Golem. With a rock man who hits you once and then runs away. This is leading up to when you get near the top of the mountain. You want to be sure that you get this guy. You get into a random encounter where Golem is being ganged up on by a bone dragon and a zombie dragon, and he says, "Hey, you gotta help me, buddies." And if you defeat those enemies, I think without hurting Golem, he will join you. He even says, "It'd rock if I could roll with you guys."
Yep. So Golem's making these puns and stuff, and this is one of maybe the first appearance of Golem. I don't know. I'm gun shy about saying that now. The Golem is cool. Golem's very useful, extremely useful in this game. Extremely useful in Final Fantasy Tactics as well.
Yeah.
So what this summon does is it gives you protection from physical attacks. I think it's equal to twice the HP of the summoner who has it.
Possibly.
So you will just not take the damage up until that's done, and that's just incredibly potent.
Yeah.
Like probably my most used summon.
In
the game.
100%. Like it ends up being a replacement for Protect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a much more potent replacement. And I think that, again, I didn't do this because I didn't futz around with Chemist this run through, but they have a thing called the Giant Drink, which doubles your HP. And I think that it is like a known combo to drink that and then summon Golem.
Gotcha.
And then you end up with just protection for basically the whole battle. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he's really great. A little goofy how you get him. The little encounters with him where he just hits you and runs away are an annoying resource drain. Flavor, but like a little bit obnoxious.
Golem prior to this was not a summonable monster. However, as early as Final Fantasy 1, there were Golem type enemies.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's not the same one, probably.
Yeah. You just want to make sure you get this guy. Like this is the summon that I found to be the most useful.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
And also amazing in tactics, as I mentioned. Use him all the time.
Yeah.
So near the top of the mountain, or after you've done that, he joins you. We find the dragon grass, but in this world, it's actually this big monstrous like vine plant creature.
Yes.
So the wind drakes are dying out because the only thing that heals them is a monster, and you have to like harvest it.
Right. And this gets us into a fight with the dragon pod and the dragon flowers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I found very easy. The pod itself only summons more flowers. The flowers can do things, but if you are doing, I'm rolling ninjas, right?
Yeah.
Basically, and I basically kept that party for the whole game.
Yeah.
I just threw scrolls, and 1 to 2 scrolls would kill all the flowers and do damage to the middle flower, and that's basically all I did.
Yeah. Like even kicks will get you pretty far. It's a standard Final Fantasy style boss fight. Right, where you got the main big guy and a bunch of satellites around him. Yeah.
Once you take them off, we get the grass. We take it back to Bal Castle. We can't go in the front door though because they think we might be a monster. So we have to sneak in through the moat. There's a great sword in the moat. Just a weird little thing you can find.
Yeah,
like somebody threw it in there. And once you sneak in, Krylie is now bedridden. She has a headache, and it's because there's tons of just psychics in this game. Because the sage Guido is calling out to her.
Right. Yeah. And this gets us, our next thing that we need to do. We need to go find Sage Guido, this, sage that has been alive for centuries and centuries. But to do that, we need to get our Windrake back into commission. The Windrake refuses to eat the grass. So Lenna, literally just repeating something she did in the first part of the game, eats some of the grass, poisons herself with it in order to prove that it is safe.
Yeah. I'm at this point officially very sick of drama around this Drake.
Yep.
It's like, yes, this kind of makes a sense. I don't know exactly how intelligent the Drakes are supposed to be that they can understand this. Like, see, I'm eating it. It's good.
Yeah.
But we had just twisted the Drake for pathos like 2 seconds ago, and I'm a little bit over this Drake.
Yeah.
Like, it's cute, but I am a little bit over it.
I like the sound it makes. So, it was designed by one of the best composers Square has. But something should be said about Bal Castle. The basement here is a power leveling place where you're going to fight those statues. You can only be in one part of it because in the other part you've got to break in through a cave to get Odin. But down in the basement you can find groups of these things, these statues called Objet d'Art in the Game Boy Advance translation, which are susceptible to level 5 death. So this is where I powered up my Oracle while I was watching Chernobyl. Because I did not want to go into the final dungeon without their look ahead ability. So I did the entire encounters. I did the entire last part of the game without any random encounters, and it was wonderful.
That's pretty rad. Yeah. I wish I had done.
Yeah,
I had done that. I didn't. I already done my grinding for this game. I didn't have level 5 death, which I knew that it would be a way to power level, but I was trying to resist power leveling.
Yeah.
Right. In this, but this is the place where you can do it, and this is planned, right? Like, this is something, obviously the developers put this here, and they put it at this spot very intentionally to give you control over that. There's like 2 things that they do to give you a lot of control over your final party. One is put this power leveling spot here, so you can do it here, and then 2, have enemies that give just absolutely generous AP awards in the final dungeon, so you can get whatever party build you want.
Yeah.
On the end, which I guess is a good thing if you want to do it. One of the things in that Chris Kohler book, he talks about spending 10 hours here and making his entire party at like max level.
I don't know about that.
And I was just like, 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
that's a lot.
So I could see doing it, but I can't see focusing on it.
No. I think he probably watched movies or something, right?
Yeah,
like,
possibly.
You'd almost have to.
Yeah.
To do this, but I couldn't bring it to myself to do that, and I don't necessarily think, like, it's good that it's here. It's good that the developers giving you that control of your party. It's hard for me to think that this is like good design.
It's hard to think that that's the best solution. Yeah, it's
the best solution. Yeah, to those problems, right? Like, I don't
know. I know better. I just know that it doesn't ring right for me.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that. The best idea is like, hey, spend a few hours doing this thing that has the language of an exploit, even though it is purely intended. Just to beat this power curve and break the game. Like, it doesn't feel clever to break it this way when it's just put here and encouraged by the developers, Like, it's a little weird. Like, it's not horrible or anything like that. And I recognize this is my bias that is averse to farming, averse to grinding. But it is just like, it's hard for me to call that. I don't necessarily think this is good or clever.
Yeah.
That this is here, So there's a part of it that I understand the impetus behind, but not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So we take the Drake to Guido's Island. However, Guido's Island gets sunk by Exdeath at this point.
At this point, there's going to be a lot of arriving at a place, cutting to Exdeath standing at the top of his tower, cackling, and then something happening in the world.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty consistently.
Right.
Yeah. So that happens here. So we have to go meet with another person, the fourth person of the original warriors we haven't met yet, Xezat.
Zipzor.
Zipzor, like not a great name. Xezat, Xezat. Xezat.
Yeah. Xezat, he presides over the Surrogate Castle. He's another king, another person to roll with Galuf, like we said. He's not here. They basically say, like, yeah, no, just go find him. He's on some boats by the barrier. It's fine. This place is worth exploring. I think this might be where you can buy your level 3 spells, your Aga spells. Additionally, there's a library here. If you remember back in the Great Library, they were talking about, like, oh, it's maddening. We've got this book that's missing half the pages. Here, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's the other half of that book, basically. And if you explore and go do some chores for somebody, you can find Float, which is a useful spell, because we're getting
great.
And the just when you get into the bullshit dungeons that have traps and stuff.
Yeah, borderline necessary for traps, and then also it obviates earth attacks, basically, which is really important because there's some elemental gimmick bosses coming up.
Yes.
He's heading. So Xezat is gone. He's heading this kind of decoy armada at the edge of the barrier. The plan is to send that there to focus Exdeath's attention while they send a submarine underneath one of the barrier towers to like short circuit it. There are 4 barrier towers. We saw these outside of the castle. If one of them goes down, the barrier goes down.
So when we sleep before the attack, we are attacked. Because we rolled up a fake armada, we expected them not to do anything. Everybody seems really surprised at this.
Yeah, it's real weird.
Yeah.
Oh, they fell for our feint. Good thing we were sleeping while it happened.
Yeah. And this is a lengthy ship battle section where you're just kind of running around doing scripted battles until Gilgamesh shows up. And he's here with his buddy Enkidu, which is a little nod to the actual Epic of Gilgamesh. And you fight him, you fight them, and Enkidu is just a blue magic pinata. So there are at least 2 of these encounters where you have enemies who will just cast blue magic that you might have missed. So this is another thing where they just built in saying, like, yeah, you really shouldn't punish you for not getting this attack in this other place. So
other than that, I don't remember a lot about the boss battle.
No. It's just
like my strategy at this point is shockingly similar for most fights.
Well, yeah, because you rolled up like people who just attack like rapid fire and dual wield all day. I'm by volume 75% rapid fire dual wield. And then like a support character who makes those characters more effective. Yes,
and that's basically what I do here as well.
None of the Gilgamesh attacks are actually like that involved. Like these are not hard battles. Like this is just a way for you to get comedy out of Gilgamesh.
Yes, he's a comedy pinata.
Yes.
So we eventually go into this tower. We've done that. We take the sub, right? Like, or we head down, or we at this point we dock the ship or something.
Something like
How do
that.
we get down into this?
Like the sub is like attached to the bottom of the ship. So like you go downstairs and then you just hop into it.
Then you're a sub, and then you go to this tower. And Xezat says, "I'm going to go to one generator. You have to go to another one, and they have to be destroyed at the same time."
Yeah, the generator's downstairs, the antenna's upstairs, and we're going to talk by Whispergrass.
Yeah, this game cannot operate without telepathy.
Right.
There's no. So here's the third form of telepathy.
So they had Whispergrass. They had Whispergrass in FF4. That's how Edward's song transmitted. Yeah.
How he communicates you in the magnet cave.
Yes. What's funny here, and this is not going to be a nitpick because I just understand this is how writing works. It's hilarious that the Whispergrass is just a walkie-talkie, and it just in this culture that has no experience with walkie-talkies, they have walkie-talkie etiquette or radio etiquette.
Yeah.
So that's like over and out. Like what does that mean?
It just naturally developed.
Yeah. Like I understand that just from the localization standpoint. Like, just that's something you do. That's fine. It communicates what it is. But it's just very funny that it just popped up like that.
The nitpicky part of me wishes that this is how the Moogle communicate. Like, maybe the Moogle finds some whisper grass.
Yeah.
As opposed to Moogles just being telepathic, right?
Yeah.
Like, or Guido does that rather than Guido just being telepathic. Like, it's not so much that having a form of telepathy is bad. It's like Dark Souls 3 with their like 6 kinds of giants.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's having 3 different forms of telepathy introduced within about 2 hours. That is just silly.
When Crowl is not indicated to be psychic at any other time, really.
Yeah. It's just silly. You know. So this is we're going up this tower. It's very basic layout of this dungeon. Like, there's no real maze factor to this, right? We're just basically going in circles. There's an enemy called a Reflect Knight that shows up a lot who has Reflect on it permanently. You know, and then one of these floors is lousy with dragons, which big rewards for fighting them, but tough.
Yes.
At this point, have the dragons in this game typically have a very strong, unreflectable elemental attack that hits your whole party.
Yeah, blaze or frost or something like
blaze or frost or lightning. And they do it quickly. Like, the speed, this is the point in the game where the speed of enemies really started affecting me.
Absolutely.
Where sometimes, like, if I was not, Annie Oakley with the ATB, I would get hit by 2 things in a row very quickly and would die or lose party members. This dungeon is the first dungeon I died in the game. And it was, it was like a little bit of a wake up call, just because it was just like, well, I have to stay topped off because, my grinding that I had done in the first world has worn off now. And if I fight 2 dragons and they both very rapid fire, do both those elemental attacks, and then when they get their sometimes they get like a bonus attack, like they'll move twice, it feels like. I would lose people who are very important and kind of end up in a bit of a death spiral. Yeah.
I also noticed, kind of like right when you get into this world, there is a difficulty, if not spike, then jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
jump is a good way to
a difference between the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it doesn't go back down. Like, there's a little bit of a stairs.
Yeah.
So, at the top, we run into a boss fight.
Yeah. This is a good boss fight. I like this quite a bit. Atomos? Yeah. So this is a big howling gate void. Love the design on this bad boy. And this is a hard fight because it uses Comet, which is a pretty spicy meatball at this point, falling from the sky at you.
Yeah. Very strong time magic.
Yes. And when your characters are dead, their corpses are dragged across the battlefield. And when they reach Atomos, they're gone out of the battle for good. And
the trick here is to let that happen. Because if you revive that character to stop them from being dragged in, that's what triggers Comet. He will do 1 or 2 comets, which are guaranteed to kill a party member. And then once someone's dead, he starts sucking it in. So this is a DPS race. Yeah. He kills whoever you kill. You hope that he kills somebody you can afford to lose. Right. Which means, you might think that means, I hope he doesn't kill my healer. You want him to kill your healer. Yeah. And if your healer is being sucked in, your DPS guys can just absolutely go ham on him and take him out. If he takes out one of your DPS guys, you're going to have to do another roll. Yeah. Basically. But he's not much. As long as you revive people, he can only kill 2 people at once. He'll never do comment again while he's sucking in creatures. No, he's a real gimmick.
Yeah, I never noticed that. I never noticed the gimmick in any of the times I did this. So
it's such an instinct to revive your guys.
Yeah,
right?
I know, right?
I want to be at full power, but if you don't, he doesn't do anything. He just wants to eat. Yeah. So I was very lucky. He took out Lenna, who is my healer character in this. Yeah. So I just had 3 people rapid firing him, and was able to make not short work of him, but he didn't end up eating Lenna. Yeah. So it still took a while.
Regardless of his difficulty, it's still a really cool gimmick fight.
It's super cool gimmick fight. Yeah. Again, that's the saving grace of the fights in this game, the combat are the boss fights, right? Yes. And I think that this is a really good example of a cool boss fight. Yeah. Yeah. I like it a lot.
So with the tower down, with the antenna down and the generator down, the tower begins to explode. Zuzat has done, just the standard Final Fantasy or just fantasy thing where he's sacrificing himself without telling anybody, which is a huge dick move to Galuf.
Real Irish goodbye. Yeah. But Irish permanent goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, killing yourself without telling anybody.
The long Irish goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely a dick move to Galuf.
Yeah.
And questionable whether it was necessary.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah. We escape on the Windrake, and there's very little hand-wringing about its well-being, so thumbs up.
Yeah, Windrake's better now. So now that we have a sub, we can get to Guido's cave.
Right. And Guido's cave, really, it's just more cave dungeon. The only noteworthy feature, you've got this series of doors that is unlocked by treasure chest switches.
Yeah.
But it's just a movement tax, getting you random encounters. FF5 dungeon.txt. Yeah.
Yeah. And then surprise, when you meet Guido, like there's this little comedy scene where he's like a turtle, and Bartz, the absolute piece of shit, immediately is like, "Hey guys, I'm killing this turtle." Yeah. Like just runs up and starts giving this turtle shit, like flips it over, like pushing it around, teasing it. And no one is like, "Hey, that's a living creature, stop it."
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of standing there staring.
Yeah.
It's a really surreal scene until the turtle advocates for itself.
Yes.
Including Galuf, who presumably knows that Guido is a turtle.
Yeah, Guido knows. So like again,
it's a really weird scene.
This is a misunderstanding that didn't need to happen, because Galuf could say, "Oh, a thing you need to know about Guido. He's a talking turtle."
Before I introduce anybody to a turtle, I let them know that the turtle is a turtle. That's not just first principles.
Yeah. And again, people could say we're nitpicking or whatever. Like Bartz goes and does this again. Nobody gives him shit for torturing a living being. Everybody is like, "Hey, dipshit, that's the sage. How did you How did you not know that before he talked?"
Well, it was a turtle. Yeah. I saw a turtle. I'm going to kick it.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's a very Beavis and Butthead kind of character. So this is Guido, and Guido, this sets off their relationship, their antagonistic relationship. Yeah. And one of the things I like about Guido is constantly just calling Bartz a fucking moron.
Oh, he just gives him a never-ending world of shit.
Like 2 discs of just Guido just being like, "Hey, you dumbass."
Yeah.
Like, do I have to repeat myself, or are you going to fucking listen for once, you piece of shit?
Yeah.
Like, Guido is so mean to Bartz in a way that I cannot get enough of.
Yeah. Well, Bartz will like repeat something to make sure that he heard it. And Guido's like, "Do I hear an echo in here?"
Yeah. Are you not listening to me? This is about the fate of the world, you fucking moron. Like, Guido is so mean to him, and I'm into it because he's saying everything I'm thinking. Well, yeah. There's also... It's either here or it's later, and I apologize if I'm jumping. Is this where he makes the reference that implies that then references the Ninja Turtles? At one point,
it's during the fight. It's during the fight between Guido and Exdeath.
Okay, yeah. He knows about the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
So just know that Guido has a lot going on. Mm-hmm. Like,
it's been around for centuries. You can't live. I've lived 30 years, and I've heard of the Ninja Turtles. Come on.
Yeah. You get Ninja Turtles about year 12.
You're gonna have to learn about the Ninja Turtles sometime, Yeah.
If they don't teach you in school, they're gonna teach you on the streets. So Guido explains, in between dressing down Bartz, that Exdeath is looking for something in the Forest of Moore, Moore, and that because that's where Exdeath came from. And he's the result of evil spirits being sealed into a particular tree for generations.
So just in case you wanted a little bit of Fern Gully in your Tolkien.
Yeah. I somehow, I knew Exdeath was an evil spirit or an evil tree. I missed the detail about evil spirits being within him. Mostly in the Slack, we were discussing his final design, which I think is goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Not, the very final, the Neo Exdeath one, the one that's just a big pile of sprites.
Yeah.
I think is really goofy. And it does actually make more sense with him being full of those are the spirits that were inside the tree.
Yeah.
I guess. But I missed that detail. I'd forgotten about it because it's not particularly important to this. We talked about the antagonist of this game being very sloppy. It's not just unsatisfying and poorly characterized. It's also, again, very sloppy. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. And there's a version of this conveyed properly where it's like, oh yes, a tree that came to life, seeks to open the void. I could probably be okay with a version of that. We just didn't get a good one.
even the version of that it feels like cross purposes, because a tree coming to life should be like The Happening or whatever, right? Like it should be an environmentalist message. It should be Ferngully. But this is not an environmentalist message. It's explicitly not. Like it starts as one, and then it says like it's a nihilist message.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of like a world tree kind of deal.
Okay. Yeah. Even though this is
I'm on my Yggdrasil kick.
This is not in any universal world tree though. Like. The commonality between a world tree and a regular tree is there's not a line there. Like they're very different things semiotically. So like there's there's also a part of this that could echo them banishing Exdeath the other world, with this world banishing all their evil spirits into a tree. And like what are the consequences of when you throw something away?
Where is away?
What it wears away. And that's an interesting idea that this game doesn't do anything with. And it's not me willfully misreading it. Like it just doesn't spend any time on that. And if that's the action, the reaction to that shouldn't be a return to void.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it should be more personal than that. Like the idea of like, hey, there are consequences to you stuffing this tree full of spirits. Like how you didn't think about how the tree would feel. That doesn't matter. There's an A-B disagreement with destroying the world and returning everything to Mu or whatever, new or what. So yeah, this is again, it just Exdeath has a lot of things. It is really weird and sloppy. So Guido says the seal. Guido maintained the seal until it was broken. Then the chronology. Then the Dawn Warrior stepped up and sealed Exdeath away in our world. And Guido gives you a branch from the Guardian tree. Which will allow us to navigate this forest.
Right.
So we head to the forest, which is a really long, kind of annoying dungeon where the foreground gets in the way of things sometimes.
They don't actually, they do something that Square would eventually get right in Chrono Trigger. With different it's kind of a mode. I forget what mode it is, but just layers of sprites over top of things, and transparency. So like
a parallax almost.
Yeah, like a parallax where where you're walking in a forest and you're looking through a transparent layer of like trees and branches and things like that. Here they've got a solid layer of trees and branches, but you've got a circular cutaway around your character in the middle of it, which just means that the dead ends are even more invisible, which leads to you walking around more, which leads to more encounters. And again, it regresses back to that. Yeah.
So not my favorite dungeon.
No.
Or anything like that. So once you make your way forward, partway through, the ground begins to shake and the forest catches fire. And luckily a Moogle helps you through a sinkhole. They love sinkholes. And when we come back in, we exit the forest. There's really nothing there. We can come back in this burned out forest and make our way to the Guardian tree after the fire has burnt out. This opens up a big path to us. Like the trees actually move out of the way. And we get up here and we get a boss fight that I found very difficult. That killed me a bunch of times. The 4 crystals.
It's funny that they're not named. And it's also funny that they very clearly have different elements. Very much highlighting what you're actually doing right here. And the way that they work, the mechanic of how these things work, each one is associated with an element. And they will do strong but not devastating physical attacks until they're at critical. And then when critical, they will do high-level elemental magic at you. And just spam it. Like they get a speed boost. They will just go at it. So you cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, get multiple ones of these guys in critical at the same time. No.
That will kill you.
You're going to be tempted by this because all but one of them is weak to fire. So if you say like, okay, well, I will just single that one guy out and, spam Ifrit or whatever. No, you're going to get 3 of them in critical and they're going to just house you.
And this fucked up my strategy, obviously, because I was using rapid fire, which is a target.
Forgot about that. I didn't put that together until just now.
I struggled with this quite a bit. And ultimately I was doing really good damage just with double strikes as well, right? Like half as much damage, but still, that was still very good. So that was what ended up unlocking that for me, and keeping float up So if you have float, the earth elemental one can't hurt you.
Right.
So if you do that, there are other ways around this too. If you've managed to pick up any like a reflect ring, I think you get one reflect ring from here. That makes you that character invincible.
Yeah.
To the second phase. I don't think you can get the reflect spell or carbuncle. I know you can't get carbuncle yet.
Yeah.
But there's other ways around this. But basically, it is the ultimate like focus fire and keep your guys up. Because the physical attacks aren't fucking around either.
No.
Like this is a really hard boss fight. I died against this many times actually.
Yeah. The physical attacks are enough that even Golem doesn't necessarily do you a lot of good.
He'll run out fairly quickly, and they're fast. Like they are really fast. Like getting Golem. By the time my healer came up, it was a choice of casting Golem or healing my guys who had already been pretty hurt. And what ended up unlocking it was that character just needs to Cura, be hasted, and cast Cura every round.
Yeah.
On everyone, and that was what kept my guys up long enough to start wearing down the crystals and slow down the kind of death spiral. So cool boss, like cool gimmick, very difficult.
Yeah,
but good test of like understanding. A couple different factors and cool hidden mechanic that is not immediately apparent.
Yes. So with those down, it is revealed that we did Exdeath's work for him.
Yes.
Similar to carrying the bomb ring into the village or what have you. The villain has manipulated us into going and breaking the seals for you. Breaking the seals for him. He appears, attacks with his full power. Kryle senses the danger, hops on the Windrake, and gets knocked out. And this leads to Galuf's death moments.
Yes. Galuf fights him, and this actually does take place in the fighting interface. Which is good. And the way they articulate this is cool, right? Is that you continue to fight, but Galuf doesn't, he continues to fight at 0 HP. It's funny, I couldn't remember if this game was the game, like a game that gives you your equipment after a character dies, gives you their equipment or not. So I had de-equipped Galuf, but the trigger for this fight ending is doing enough damage to Exdeath. So for a long time, I was just doing like 50 damage to him with unarmed attacks.
That is really funny.
Just kind of trying to run out the clock.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, something's wrong. So I ended up equipping him with some like lower order weapons, that still did damage, but I wouldn't miss.
Yeah.
If they were gone, and eventually made it through.
Right.
And this is our Galuf death scene.
Yeah.
He eventually does go down after like pushing Exdeath away.
Right.
And this is our little preview of like Exdeath doing the high level spells and stuff.
Yeah. It is the Golbaz fighting Tella and using the level Blizz 3, things like that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Galuf is dead. Everybody else is still incapacitated. He gathers this world's crystals, because the seals have been broken, and he leaves. Galuf dies right in front of his granddaughter, Kryle. And when they step outside, the tree has granted him just enough power to pass along his crystal shards to Kryle.
Yeah. Yep. And that gives Kryle power, and now we have Kryle.
Yeah. Noteworthy that this is a game where, in your end party, only one of your main characters is male. Yeah.
Yep. You're rolling around with a lady squad.
Yeah.
Generally. It's also... would have been intolerable with a game with this much character build and investment to take away a character.
Yes.
And without having done this, this is an admirable move, at least because of the enormity of what the alternative would be.
Yeah.
If you had spent a bunch of time building up Galuf and then just lost that, and they introduced you got another freelancer or something.
Yeah.
That would be a fatal error.
Yeah.
For the game. As is, it ends up having very Kryle has different stats than Galuf, so it has very little mechanical effect.
Right.
She just literally slid in the same role that he did. And kind of dynamic wise and emotionally wise, to me it is a big downgrade.
Yeah.
I thought it was cooler fighting one with this legendary warrior, and then two, Galuf was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't think
he had the most personality.
The most personality, he's not there's nothing in this game I think is really, there's one moment I think is laugh out loud funny, which we'll get to. I don't think this is a funny game. I think it's a game that has kind of aspirations of being lighthearted.
Yeah.
And Galuf was a big part of that. Kryle's personality trait that she replaces it with is being an animal lover. Right?
I mean, is she an animal lover? Because that's Lenna's thing. Kryle's personality is sad that her grandpa died.
I guess that's true. I was getting her confused with Lenna because there's not a whole lot of personality to go around. in here.
Yeah,
so she also has the Drake. So there's a little bit of her like, you know,
to an extent, but most of her scenes, you know, like the inn scenes and things like that, is her reminiscing about Galuf.
Yeah.
Which it just doesn't. It
makes this game not pass the Bechdel test. Like you know, it's a weird. It kind of undercuts the rolling around with a crew of all ladies if the ladies on your team can't stop talking about the guys on your team.
Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt it was their intention to even try to pass it.
No, but it wasn't at all. Of course,
it's out. It's like it's not sized correctly. For the rest, like it's not enough for her. It's not enough for her characterization to stand on alone.
No, she doesn't. Everyone can use more personality in this game. She could certainly use more personality.
Yeah,
and Mrs. Grandpa's not enough. Yes. And we have not had as much time to get you to know her, and we're halfway through the game now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we won't get enough time to get to know her, and like there's an element where it's like, okay, this is kind of brave and cool that they killed off a main character. This is not trailblazing, as a thing, right? So like, Phantasy Star 2 had come out, which you lose your childhood friend that you got to know a lot better, like a lot more important, to the plot, or at least to your character.
Yeah.
It's not like a stranger from an alien land.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody who's elemental to it. And then you get the absolutely huge sweeping changes of melodrama in 4.
Yes.
Right? Like where like you would lose party members regularly.
And every hour on the hour.
Yeah, it gets a little comical in that game, right? But it's not. I don't give this game any credit for having you lose a main character.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that had already been a trick that had already been.
I can't decide if it's a good or a bad thing that it kind of like manages to have both. That it manages to give you a new character with no real mechanical cost to that decision.
Yeah.
While also like giving you the dramatic beat of losing a character that they want you to care about. Right. You want the person to feel a mechanical cost, right? That's Eris, that's Final Fantasy IV, that's Phantasy Star 2, because of the mechanics of this game. As I mentioned, it would be intolerable to have this have a serious mechanical cost. So their hands were tied. Like they couldn't have this loss be something that where the effect was felt holistically, where it was the story and the play were integrated.
And honestly, because of the backseating of the story of this game and the focus on play, I think this is 1,000% the right move.
Yeah.
Not just because the alternative would be bad, but also because it feels like a self-awareness of kind of knowing that, at some point, the people who made this game, like, were thinking this was going to have these emotional beats and stuff. But I also think on some level, and I don't think this is an excuse or good, but that they knew the focus on this was on that crunch. They knew that, when people were going to, replay this in the future, people were not necessarily going to remember this for the storyline.
Yeah. No.
Like, I think that, I don't think it has to be a choice. I don't think that was a good decision, but I do think that, it almost had to have been.
I mean,
right?
but did they know that people weren't going to think about the story? I mean, you listen to Sakaguchi say like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do my best to make you cry."
I don't. I mean, so the alternative, right? So I think about that, and the alternative is, so it's the only thing that makes sense to me is that they knew on some level, because otherwise they just forgot how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have like Picasso makes cubism. It's not like he forgot how to draw a horse.
Right.
Like he could still just draw a horse. He's choosing not to.
Yeah.
This it almost has to be. Like it almost has to be a decision that can be criticized, not a failing that can be criticized. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that they were maybe trying to have their cake and eat it too a little bit with Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi's like, I'm going to make you cry stuff. Like maybe they just wanted to have a little taste of that, but they had to have understood at least a little bit on some level that this was batting below the emotional weight class of the game they had just done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like this is the making the transference is a decision, I think, in deference of that.
Yeah.
That weight, that value.
Yeah. It's still it's still ultimately the right decision, probably, because what, again, thinking about in terms of what does it cost and what did you buy with it, losing a developed character and starting from scratch with somebody new, incredibly expensive for an emotional beat in a game that is not about emotional beats.
Yes.
So it was the right calculation, it feels like.
Yeah. Yep.
If you are forced into making that calculation and those trade-offs at all, they made the right one.
Yeah. I would have, for many reasons, I don't think this death gives very much to the game. Like, all the Warriors of Light are dead. Now, the original one, so there's a little bit of that passing of the torch thing.
Well, hey, the werewolf is dying.
The werewolf is dying. Is dead or dying. But I liked having Galuf around.
Yeah.
Like, he spiced things up a little bit. Again, I don't think the dialogue in this game is very funny, but it was a little bit, he had a lot more personality, so I was sad to see him go. And there is a notable kind of draining of the game as we get into this, and specifically into Disc 3 or World 3, where the tone gets a lot more serious.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for me to check out of what's happening.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. Like, this is still, like, good. I'm still enjoying myself at the game at this point. I have a very hard time with World 3 of this game.
Yes.
Which we will get to soon.
Yeah. So, the barrier's down. We've gone into the Guardian Castle. Exdeath has the crystals. Things are about as bad as they can be. So what we need to do is walk right into the front door of the castle.
Yes. Which we walk in, and it is just a dungeon for a time. But then we get to this dead end. As we try to leave, it triggers a thing where Kryl gets a strange feeling and draws upon Galuf and the Dawn Warrior's powers, which, like, oh, cool, you can do that, to dispel the illusion.
Yeah.
And this is kind of cool. Like, the castle is this, like, meat castle. Like, I like this.
Yeah.
I think this is cool.
This is really good. Just the walls are animated. Which is great, but just like it's all rib cages and skulls and stuff.
Yeah, this is rad.
Yeah,
give me a house made of people.
Yes, this is where Kelger dies. Kelger gives his last in order to pass along the ability to pierce this veil. So
like how Houdini died from getting punched in the stomach.
Kind of.
Like it's just like it's like a really ignoble end.
Yep.
To somebody, like, we shouldn't have wrestled so hard.
I like that. I like that we were in this place and we had no idea that this is what his true nature was.
Yeah.
Before
it was actually one of my things that made me think about if this were, obviously I love, like, chunky pixel art and stuff like that, and I love these abstract representations of things. If this were a game with higher fidelity, it would have been great if you were walking on stone and it still made a squish sound.
Ooh, yeah.
And that was, like, foreshadowing about it. I was thinking about that.
Yeah,
that'd be neat.
Yep.
This dungeon I don't particularly care for. There are a lot of tricks in it I don't like.
We're
like trapdoors.
We're getting to the point where all of the dungeons, or the majority of them, and this is a real problem in the last disc of the game, where all of the dungeons are 10-floor puzzle nightmares. Not puzzle nightmares, task nightmares.
Yes, like lots of a lot of trial and error where error sends you back to redo things.
Yes.
In an explicit way. So, like, lots of trapdoors that put you back down on the other floor, and you can avoid those with the Geomancer and float sometimes, some of those things. But some of them are not explicitly a trapdoor, but they still have the cadence of that. It's always just kind of sending you back. Like, maybe it's a choice, of different things, you could choose, and choosing the wrong one sends you back to a little staging area where there's maybe a treasure to, like, make you feel a little, better for the first time you go down there. But it's very hard to not repeatedly go down there. So you end up doing these kind of tight concentric loops inside this dungeon.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of, like, if you are, it's 4 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yes.
To walk, 40 steps. Is basically what the feeling of is it, and it is each dungeon from here on out. Like, the last dungeon has really good flavor in this game, but every dungeon leading up to that is this.
Yes.
And I don't like it. Like, as the bosses get more complicated and more interesting, they also want to do something with dungeons, but the dungeon design is not there.
Yeah.
There is good dungeon design, right? Like, that is a thing that can be extant. It's not like this is just how they have to go and there's no other way to make it hard.
Right.
No, that's a failure of imagination. Like, there are ways you could have done this, and they did not.
Right.
And it's very frustrating. It makes all of the dungeons from this point on just an absolute nightmare. Like, even with my kind of optimized, powerful party, they were just tedious.
Yes.
And this is kind of the beginning of that.
Yeah.
As you are making your way through here, if you do kind of solve this little optional side task puzzle thing, we can run into a boss fight against Carbuncle to get this summon.
Yeah, Carbuncle. I like that when you fight him, he's got this, like, explicitly demonic form. But when you get him, he's, the cute little ruby bunny again.
Yeah, chibi.
Yeah, Carbuncle's great. Kind of just like a series MVP for me. Always a good summon to get. True to form, when you fight him, he's got his reflect up, and that's really the only wrinkle to him. And of course, his summon gets you the ability to cast reflect on everybody.
Reflect all.
Making it very very useful.
Which extremely powerful if you've been doing white magic or blue magic, so you can do a white wind.
Yes.
If you haven't been doing blue magic, it's a little trickier, right? Because not being able to heal your character with spells is a big deal.
Yes.
But can still sometimes be like situationally very powerful. So we go through this dungeon, we get up to this big treasure chamber, and Gilgamesh beats us to this chest. There's a chest in the middle. He gets to it first. Yep. Thinking he's found Excalibur in this chest. He does his attack. This is, one of the good jokes in this thing. He has Excalibur, which is the pun bad Excalibur from the Final Fantasy series. That has almost no damage. Yeah. So he continues to fight, but he does not have the power. Yeah. Eventually you hurt him until he grows into a new form.
For Gilgamesh, it's morphing time.
Yep. So in Russia, Gilgamesh morphs you. Like, some great sentence construction.
Yes.
There.
It is morphing time to me.
Yes.
But he grows several more arms, and he's got all kinds of weapons. Like, yes, this is an incredibly Nomura design. Or a mono? No, a Nomura. There we go, Nomura. Yeah. A mono good, Nomura bad. Lenny White, Carl Black.
No more. Just think of no more.
Yes. But yeah, he grows several more arms. He's got all these weapons and stuff. Good design. I love this goofy guy with all these arms. And the fight goes on until Exdeath. He pulls a real dick move and banishes Gilgamesh for failing.
Yeah.
Drops him into the negative zone.
Yeah, no real reason. Because again, Exdeath is just, a jerk.
Yeah.
And Gilgamesh is shocked by that. We'll run into Gilgamesh later.
Yes.
And seems like his final beat for a while. When we get to the top, Exdeath. My Exdeath was really riding my balls up at the top of this tower.
Yeah.
And,
I was like, we bought those records together, Beth.
Yeah, geez, Beth, don't change your number. Like, we can talk about this like adults, Beth. My ex-Beth is up at the top and makes his little speech about how we can't understand his motives, which, like, you're right, I fucking can't. Good point.
I don't care to. I can't, and I don't care to.
There's no motives. Like, the motives are just like, let's return to nothing. Like, I can't understand your motives. It's not a good thing for a villain to say you'll never understand my motives if the player never understands them.
If it's true, yeah.
Yeah, if it's true, it's a horrible thing to brag about. And then we do our kind of World 2 and boss fight. With Exdeath as the big armored form, the cool form.
Yes.
Of him.
Yeah.
And this is tough. Yeah. Like, he's just the kind of very similar to Golbez, like a hybrid physical and caster fight who moves a lot, gets a lot of moves.
Yes.
And is very tanky.
It's got high level spells. And the one that will really be a bummer is the attack that will turn your people into zombies.
Yes. Yep. Zombie is a really annoying status in this game. It makes them confused.
Yes. And
puts them at 0 HP. So they can still do damage to him. They don't always hurt you.
Yeah.
But they will, if your whole party is zombied, you die.
Yeah. It takes away control when you need all hands on deck.
Yeah.
For all hands on X deck.
Yes.
For Exdeath.
So you eventually, he's just a tough fight. There's a really strong gimmick other than the zombie thing. Once you take him down, the crystals begin to shatter and the castle shakes. And we wake up in this kind of familiar area. Like, it seems like we've won.
Yeah, so here we go. Exdeath is down, but what's going on? Castle Tycoon, it's right there. And we are in World 3, which is 1+2.
Yes, they have been merged. If you look at the world maps, for both of them, they fit together. So the clever trick, to have them together near Tycoon, and we start doing some kind of coda stuff.
Yeah.
Like we go to the castle. Lenna and Faris, who are princesses, are roped into kind of a big celebration for saving the world.
Yep. Faris is paraded out in a dress, and Bart is horned.
Yeah, Bartz likes him likey. What him see.
Wow.
Well, bazooka. Yeah, there's a lot of like Tex Avery wolf horny. Tex Avery, creator of the horny wolf we all love. If everyone recalls that one really erect wolf.
America's favorite horny wolf.
Yeah,
pulling
Tex
on
Avery's erect wolf.
Pulling on his tie and slamming on a table.
Yeah, slowly, just rubbing his trouser front.
As a dark spot gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, licking his lips at any given, at the drop of a hat. Tex Avery's absolutely turgid wolf. So we all know the wolf. Yeah. So Criley gets impatient with us, and Bartz is like, well, hey, I didn't really have anything I was doing before any of this, and I don't really know what to do now. I had a pet. Do you want to go check it out?
Yeah.
And here's the moment I mentioned that I think is the one thing that made me laugh out loud.
Yeah. Is
this whole scene with Boko, with him, his wife, and his babies.
Yeah.
I think it's very cute and very funny. Like Boko comes out and he's like, "Oh, ready to go adventure? What's that? You met a girl." And then like another chocobo comes out,
waves,
and he's like, waves and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, that's wonderful. Do we? What the?" And then like babies come out.
Well, no, she doesn't have the babies yet.
She doesn't have babies. Yeah, they show up later, but she's like, she's pregnant. Like he finds out that she's pregnant, and I just think that is very funny to me.
Yeah,
this chocobo is pregante.
Yeah, but it's like we're coming back for the sequel. I'm like, all right, we got one last job we got to do.
I just really like that Boko spent this, like his horrible idiot owner left him. So he's like finally alive.
Oh,
like he's basically like Solid Snake between the NES Metal games and Metal Gear Solid.
Like fucking Colonel, he had to come.
Yeah, exactly. The Colonel comes to try to drag him back in, but he's like, "Yeah, I had a wife. I'm having kids.
Yeah,
like you have stopped me from being an animal, and I'm finally able to do it again. I really like that dynamic with Boko. I think it's very funny.
I've got 2 payments left on this used Taurus.
Yeah, you've got it. Please. So he gets recruited back into the Expendables for one last big adventure. What this adventure is, who knows, right? Like, does Bartz have a motivation at this point? Like, is it just Final Fantasy V? Like, hey, go. If there's a glowing thing you can get to, go get to.
I've got no fucking idea.
I don't know either.
What is motivating? Because I had Boko back. I'm like, all right, he's good. I'm going to go back to Castle Tycoon. No, you can't talk to Lenna and Faris because the dancers get in the way. You're just supposed to go to a place because you can.
It's so sloppy. Like, I was just like, okay, like, I'm supposed to go out in the world and find adventure again. Weird. It's a weird motivation for a video game.
Yeah.
For him just to go to the next glowing spot. Which you have to do. Like I went back to Tycoon as well. Not least of which because I wanted my party back.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. Like this game pulls a thing that I think is absolute horseshit here in a minute. Because you spend a lot of time without your complete party.
Yes.
So like the understanding that they displayed by making Criley inherit Galuf's things, they show a lack of understanding by taking away a party member for as long as they do, I think. So you just riding to ride. But you happen to fall into a sinkhole. Good luck. Good thing that happened because otherwise there'd be no drama. And there's an antlion because there has to be an antlion.
Right.
You fight the antlion, not anything particularly noteworthy. And then Faris pulls you up from the sinkhole. She got tired of the party, and Criley's there, and Criley says, there's a weird pain in my foot, which is foreshadowing to one of the dumbest plot developments in video games, which we will get to.
Yeah. So Faris like dicks around with Bartz too, like pulls the rope up, and when he goes to grab for it, again,
and then presents him with a birthday cake with those candles that don't stay out and stuff. There's a whole lot of
hops into a car. Hey, I invented a car. Come on, get in the passenger seat.
She goes and pretends to walk down some stairs behind a waist high wall. She's just doing a lot of Steve Martin stuff. All of a sudden,
Faris, you've been shot in the head with an arrow. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, Faris. You're a wild and crazy girl. Like the
Jesus.
A lot of shtick.
So we've got 3 of us together. And we say like, okay, well, Guido might be nearby. Let's go talk to that crazy bastard.
I don't think you do say that. I think you just go to another thing.
Yeah, no.
I think it's just like it would adventure, and then there's just another glowing spot, and you go to it because there's a glowing spot.
Yeah. So you get there, and he gives some backstory. The worlds 1,000 years ago, used to be merged. Like what we are in now is the natural state of things.
Yes.
And they had to be split apart to create space for the void to be sealed. So we're going to get into some real confusion here. You have the void, which is, the negative
Capital
space.
V void.
Capital V void. They had to split the world to create a rift that the void could be sealed into. The instigating event for this was a sorcerer, very similar to Exdeath, Enuo, tried to harness its power, right?
Yes.
So the crystals were there to kind of keep this separation in place, but now that they're gone, the worlds are merged together. There is no space for the void, and it is going to start popping out.
Yes, which is a real bummer.
Yes.
And there's no crystals. Remember, the crystals are the reason why like wind moves and the water is okay and stuff. So this world is doomed regardless.
Yes.
Right? So we've got the environmental threat, but we're not going to spend any time on that. That's no longer, that's totally ignored. The fact that the crystals did a thing is ignored. That's gone. We have this void showing up, but that's not really our problem, or like works in concert with this third problem, which is that Exdeath, who at this point, when you fight him, he's a dude, but when he blew up, he was a tree and became a splinter and stowed away in Kryle's foot.
Yes. So this is like explicitly, I know this trope from anime, right? It's like when in Dragon Ball Z, when they kill Perfect Cell, they think, okay, well, he's good, just we blast him into space, blow him apart. As long as there is one cell left, he can regenerate. And so that's how he comes back. Like, this is literally just that same trick. Like, just like as long as a splinter of me remains, I can reform from it. That's what they are doing here. But as it stands, Kryle is like, oh, my foot hurts. And then glowing light, I am Exdeath. You had a splinter in your foot and now I'm here.
But it was me.
Yeah.
I just, this is too silly. Mm-hmm. This is entirely too silly for how scary this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's really dumb. And this is not me ragging on anime. I didn't know about that anime trope.
Yeah.
Right. And like I read X-Men comics. Wolverine has regenerated from some really dumb shit. Right. I get that as a thing, but stowing away between dimensions as a splinter, a literal splinter, is an order of magnitude more silly.
It's pretty silly because by this point we probably have forgotten that Exdeath is a tree because he's been a tin can man.
He's been a guy.
Entire time.
Yeah. He's been a dude. We also just got introduced to Enuo, through this. Like, it is uncommonly sloppy. Like it is uncommonly it is just very messy to me here. So Exdeath is there. He attacks the party, and attacks kind of the world, pulls Tycoon and some other places from the world into the void.
Yes. Tycoon.
There's a giant sky void, and the castle goes into the thing.
Yeah, Tycoon, which has Lenna there still.
Yeah, 25% of our party efficacy. Yeah. And we will not get her back for a while.
Yeah.
And I hate that. Like, one, it just kind of it unbalances your party because she doesn't get XP or anything, or AP while she's gone. Two, people who are listening, I forgot that this happened when I started playing this, so I made her my healer.
No.
If I was smart, I wouldn't have, which means I need to start regrowing a healer at this part from nothing to deal with this next, 40-floor shit dungeon. Mm-hmm. It's a real bummer that she's gone for so long.
Yeah.
There'd still be stakes if the castle was just captured, right? Because this is their kingdom.
Yeah.
It'd be her people. And there'd be an opportunity for character development if Lenna, was outside, hanging out with her Drake or something. The castle gets sucked up. She comes to you and is like, my people are in danger.
Yes.
Because you're a fucking ruler.
Yeah.
At this point, we're not really dealing with that. They make you do a dance, but you're responsible for a kingdom. You're a pair of twin princesses. 1-2 princesses kneel before you. That's what I said. Now, I feel like this would have been an opportunity to make that character a little bit stronger and not fuck up your party.
Yeah.
You know, so this makes me angry. I was very frustrated about this.
Yeah, mechanically, it doesn't feel like anything about the next stretch of the game is adjusted for this.
No, it's very tough.
Yeah, which is
like, this is a tough, annoying dungeon.
Yeah, it's a really big bummer. And it also, so for the rest of the game, sucking things into the void is Exdeath's, that's his verb. Just every once in a while he will pull something. He will pull a town into the gate. And maybe this is sticking out for me because, I'm playing this game in bed. I actually fell asleep during one of these sections because I was playing in bed, but it's like, okay, in this town that has a name you don't remember, like we're going to spend, 30 to 40 seconds watching it, glow and then be sucked away. And it's done row after row after row. I woke up with the clock running.
That's amazing.
And the GBA on my chest. That sounds like exaggeration, but it's not. And I need to care about these places to know to feel like any stakes for him sucking them into the void.
Yeah. I don't, and I don't.
Yeah.
So like this third world is where this game takes a huge dive. To me. Like I said, my second playthrough, this is where it stalled.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the show, this is certainly where this one would have stalled. I powered through for work, basically, but it was work. Like, I think the game is out. Like, there's some cool boss fights.
Yes.
Some cool boss fights. The final dungeon is cool. The Village of Mist is cool. That's it. Like, everything else up until this point, I think, is pretty bad.
Yes.
Or after this point. So this is the signal that we are no longer in good times mode. So we take the turtle. To the Library of Ancients. So we acquire Turtle.
Yep.
Take him to the Library of Ancients, where the scholars from the two different worlds have now met.
Right.
The Surgate scholars and our scholars, they've combined their books to have this like kind of prophecy there. And the prophecy tells us the rift will only open for when there was gathered the 4 tablets and unsealed the 12 legendary weapons and the 3 legendary spells.
Right.
Which gives us what we're going to be doing now. In the last world, we didn't mention it because it's optional. We can actually go into a castle where they have the 12 legendary weapons in force fields.
Yes.
If we want to. Like, there they are. We can go check them out, but we can't do anything other than like get into some really tough dragon fights.
Yeah.
There. And that does give, like, the structure of this is kind of neat where we can get these out in any order. I kind of like that, but it's like what you're doing to get it is not fun.
You can save the harp and the bell for last. The
exactly.
Harp, bell, and whip for last.
Yeah, the harp, the bell, and the whip. So the first, and again, like, I kind of like this thing. Guido is reading the prophecy and using it as an opportunity to put down Bartz, which I like. If you talk to him at all, he's like, "Did you forget this incredibly important prophecy?" Oh my God! Like, and we'll just repeat the thing, kind of, and I like that.
You absolute fucking moron.
Yeah. Bartz will never log off. So the first one's the Earth Pyramid. We've seen this pyramid before in the Desert of Shifting Sands, like in the last world. We just couldn't get to it. Now we can.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And that'd be because the sands have stopped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The gate to get into all of these temples is guarded by 2 gargoyles.
Yeah.
We have to fight. The way gargoyles work is that if a gargoyle is dead, the other gargoyle gets a turn, they'll revive that gargoyle.
Yeah.
So the trick to the gargoyles is to do even damage, which is kind of a fun trick until you do it over and over and over and over again.
They lean on that like a crutch.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is the same encounter every single time.
It's just weird.
Maybe with some different, you do this 4 times. Maybe there are some different elemental weaknesses, because I know that within a fight they both have different weaknesses, so it makes it hard to
keep them even.
Yeah, to keep them even. But yeah, this is just exacerbated by the absence of Lenna. Because she might have been one of your casters. Probably. Yes. And also exacerbated is the size and just level of frustration with this dungeon. So you're inside of a big pyramid, kind of managing these spikes, managing the flow of sand, to get into these different areas with, what feels like a very high random encounter rate.
Yeah. There are snakes. Like, it is very like Indiana Jones-esque. And up until this point, I don't think any of the dungeons have been very good.
Yeah.
This is the longest dungeon in the game, though.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like every dungeon from now on is the longest dungeon of the game.
Yeah.
Like, this is when I was playing through this, like I looked at, I was like, okay, I'm very frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out which treasures are worth getting.
Yeah.
Like I need to use a map or whatever. I'm not going to explore all the diverticula of this because the encounter rate is too high and I am too frustrated by having my weekend party. So I looked at it and then I was just like, oh, 10 floors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wowie zowie. And then like looked at the rest of the document that had all the other maps and they're all 10 plus floors. And I just like lost my mind. Like I was just like, oh my goodness. There's not a lot, you know, again, it has those kind of little puzzle gimmicks, right? Like it has a unique flavor, which is good. Like it's not just another castle or another cave, but it is just really tedious.
Yeah.
So
egregious.
Yep. Egregious. So when you get to the heart of the pyramid, a little platform rises you up to the top of the pyramid. When you get the tablet, and you see this peninsula that we'd seen that was conspicuously kind of bird-shaped, that we saw in the first thing, turn into the Dragon King Bahamut.
Yeah.
He says he'll be waiting for us at North Mountain. That's one of the 3 legendary spells.
Come to North Mountain in 30 minutes to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Or your ass kicking is free.
Yes. I think Bahamut is strictly optional, actually.
Oh, is optional? Yeah, the other, it's the... Meteor.
Meteor, Flare, and Holy.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. So Bahamut's still worth getting, but he is optional.
Yes. And additionally, from the top of this vantage point, we can see the airship/ship roll up to a nearby coast. So at least we have a place to go. When we go to meet it, we pass through the grotto with the guardian tree. When we're here, the Windrake actually drops Lenna off. She managed to be rescued from the Void Pole. Because Exdeath let some demon possess her. And while we're distracted by her, he ropes in more towns, including the Library of Ancients, literally the only location that I cared about.
Yeah, one of the only locations with a sense of place.
Yes, yeah.
In the game.
Yeah. The Windrake attacks the possessed Lenna, causing the demon to, just basically knocking the demon out of her. Yeah. And this gets us to a boss fight with Melusine.
Yes, which we still, even though Lenna's here, Lenna doesn't join us yet.
Right.
There's another boss fight we have to do with just our reduced party. And there wasn't a boss fight at the end of the pyramid. This is that boss fight, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is very similar to like Magimaster or what have you in Final Fantasy VI. Like a caster that shifts between different elemental weaknesses and strengths without any kind of visual indication or anything. So if you're able to do as much non-elemental damage as you can, this is good. Resistant to physical attacks, though.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but non-elemental is what you want to do. To this, it's the safest thing.
I forget if you have bio at this point. That would be the way to go.
Yeah, I also don't remember. Yeah. I don't think I had a black mage at this point because I was being stubborn. About not wanting. Like I remade a white mage, but I wasn't like going to just remake the entire utility that Lenna had.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to grind.
Galuf and Kral for me ended up being either a summoner with black mage as a secondary or a black mage with summon as a secondary. Whereas Lenna was time and white.
Yeah. Once you get through here, Exdeath takes some more towns. So Bartz gets very mad, gets in the airship, flies it around the world a bunch of times.
Rage flies it.
Wears himself out. He'll sleep tonight.
I got the sense he was trying to pull a Superman 2. Like if I fly around the world fast enough, it'll turn time back.
I don't know. It's very weird.
He's specifically angry because Exdeath has sucked up his child at home, his hometown, but he has not expressed any real attachment to it in the past.
No.
So
zoom. Like spins around for a while. It's very funny. Eventually, he wears himself out.
Yeah.
And we get Lenna back in the party. Now, so our party's complete, even though she's now under-leveled.
Yeah.
And head to the ship, and we can now take our tablet and go cash it in for whatever weapons we want for these legendary weapons.
Yes.
Which I do like this. I think these weapons are cool. They're not just stats, like they all have special properties.
Yes.
They're different that are all pretty neat.
The bummer is a good number of them for the fighters have holy attached to them, and I feel like the game specifically gives you bosses that absorb holy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It didn't. That's 100%.
Yeah.
So
just a little bit of a hiccup, but like it's annoying, when your fighter with jump goes last. and everybody does a little bit of damage, and then he drops down with a Holy Lance and heals 8,000.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. At least changing weapons is a free action. So that's cool. So we have Lenna back in our party, like we said. When we go cash in and get our first weapons, which you're obviously going to do according to the jobs in your party, we get a cutscene of Exdeath summoning his coterie of dipshits.
Yeah. So Exdeath, the sloppy villain, who, so these presumably, souls that he had in his tree form. Some kind of demon, but they're just they remind me a lot of a freak like me needs company.
Yeah.
Just introducing, or the comedy Bang Bang version of that. Like the fearsome four, and just like little weirdos walking up.
There's 17 of them.
Yeah, I think there's 12 actually. I think there's actually 12 of them. Yeah. So just here's some weirdos.
Yeah.
Who show up, and when they have overworld sprites, when they have the 1x1 super deformed sprites, it's very funny. Okay.
He's like, okay. Go, my pretties, go and protect the lithographs and the tablets. Sorry, in the original translation I played, they were lithographs, which is ridiculous.
And listen, I know that we made this comparison, but just compare this to the Four Fiends, who are very cool.
Yeah, and have personalities. Yeah,
between them, they didn't all have personalities. Rubicant's the big one, right?
Yeah,
but they at least they weren't this. This is just, it is sad to me.
Oh, man.
Well, and Gilgamesh, he has a henchman with personality. He got rid of it.
Yeah.
So just to have these idiots.
He just really regretted it. Damn it, I got rid of my one cool friend.
Yeah, I traded my one good friend for this Congress of assholes.
Why the fuck did my sister have to divorce Dan?
Yeah. I like Dan,
He was the one good guy at parties.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we have the ship. We can get to a couple of places. You can go to the Pirate Cove and get Sildra,
which is worth it.
Sildra's
awesome. Very cheap comparatively. Does air elemental damage, which almost nothing is strong against.
Right.
Sildra is going to be I basically at some point, rather than grinding up Oracle to not do random encounters, just grinded up money to buy as many ethers as possible, so I could just have my summoner cast Sildra every single fight and just bypass almost every random encounter.
Gotcha.
She's very, Sildra is very strong. It's a spirit form because Sildra is not alive,
right?
But the spirit form is still useful.
Yes. The other place we can go is this town at the very south of the of kind of what used to be the archipelago. Now that it's merged, we've got this little forest you can go into. You get a clue about this in a later dungeon, but you can go there now. It's fine. This is the Mirage Town. This is just a place that got lost in the shuffle when the world was split. So it was part of the void, kind of just held in stasis a little bit, full of all these weirdos. And this is where you can buy a bunch of really good gear.
They're hidden shops as well.
Yeah.
There's always a main shop and then a hidden shop you access nearby. I think this is really cool. This has tons of flavor. I love the idea of a town as a random encounter.
Yep.
That's how it articulates. When you're walking around the forest, just kind of fade out and fade into it.
Yeah.
It's neat. I think Mirage Town is super cool.
Yeah. Way into it.
Yeah. So now we gotta go get tablets. So time for the Wind Tablet, the Galaxy 7. Which is near the center of the world map on an island shrine, near the big bridge.
Right.
Another gargoyle fight. So we've done that.
Checked it off. We've done the gargoyle fight and another really, really long dungeon. This time, the conveyor belts are vents.
Yeah, this is a dungeon that's basically an 0451, but with random encounters.
Yep.
You spend a lot of time in HVAC systems in this dungeon. It's very weird.
Yeah. The one thing that I do like about this, the one time that the conveyor belts have worked for me, flipping the switches and having the different combinations send you to different places, little dip switches. I thought that was good. That was fine to me.
It's ruined by having random encounters while I'm doing
obviously.
It to me, but if it wasn't for random encounters, I think it's cool. Yeah. If I wasn't running into an encounter every 7 steps.
Yeah.
I would be able to appreciate
I need to say at least one goddamn good thing about this game.
No. I mean, we've said a handful. There's
I'm just.
But this is cool again. But it's just kind of showing that a little bit more thoughtfulness would have made this like a standout kind of good dungeon.
Yeah.
It's still too long. Like I still think that even with the switches, even if this had no encounters, it is still too long.
100.
But it is a better concept than the pyramid had.
Yes. Yeah. There's an optional boss kept in a chest, a ninja named Covert. So you're fighting Alan Covert from the Adam Sandler movies. He runs away. Actually, at the end of it, he doesn't let you kill him, and it gives you the rising sun throwable.
Yeah, very powerful. This one we grab the tablet first, but then we're attacked by one of the coterie of dipshits.
Yes,
on the way back, which is a Wendigo.
The Wendigo, which is not a Wendigo.
Nope. When is a Wendigo? Not a Wendigo, Batman. So there are 4 images of this. Only one of them is real. It changes at random. Of course, you want to target all, but he has a powerful counter when you target all. I can't remember what it is. Which is still what I did, but there's a counter for that, and I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I just ended up soaking it. But he only does it when you target all.
Yeah. So you can just kind of tank through the counter, but it does something to discourage you from doing the thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like this coterie of dipshits, most of them have a concept to them, which I appreciate. Bosses with a strong concept, I like. Like these are not bad fights. They're just voids as far as personality or character or flavor.
Yes. Yeah. They show up. I think one of them just calls us pigs.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good characterization.
Yeah. Thumbs up, buddy. Yeah. But yeah, they just you got the 4 images. It'll shift around. Good concept. Good fight. Yeah.
Get the tablet.
Yeah, we grab this tablet and we get a cutaway to this tower, which if we had gone there before, it's by Crescent Town, over top of where the airship hangar was. We see this tower open up. This is Fork Tower. And this is a dungeon we're going to have to go to. This is where the strongest white and black magics are. This feels like a preview or an attempt at what they would do several times in FF6.
Yeah, FX6 has things that are very similar to this.
Yeah.
So the way this works is that there are you go to the Fork Tower. The left fork is for mages. The right fork is for fighters. In the PS1 translation of this, they mix them up.
Oh, fun.
So they lied to you. They give you the information, which you'd figure out fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Because you can't cast spells
in
the fighter one. It's not like they're weak. It's like you're muted permanently. So you have to split up your party. This is one of those things where I would have been, and you can do a 3-in-1 situation. It's just not advisable.
Yeah.
My single caster strategy would have fucked me up. The fact that I had to train up another white mage made this doable to me.
Yeah.
The dungeon itself, there's not a lot of backtracking or things like that. It's very circles.
Brief. Yeah. It's basically a straight corridor up some stairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to split up because you have to take both of the spells at the same time.
Yes.
And so you have 2 back-to-back boss fights after you get everybody up to the top. The first of them is the fighters who fight against Minotaur, which is really basic. It's just a DPS race.
Yeah. As would make sense for a fighting-based boss. The casters fight against a sorcerer named Omniscient, who has a great design. Omniscient looks really cool.
Yes.
And is just a very powerful caster. No elemental weaknesses. Will sometimes cast Reflect on himself, which is a big deal.
Yeah, real tricky. I died to this guy a couple times. Actually.
Yeah, this guy's hard. Yeah. Summons will get you past that Reflect.
Yeah.
But this is a tough fight for sure.
Yeah. And if you do somehow cast an ability that has a physical damage component, he will restart the battle.
Yeah, he cast that Rewind, that really weird time magic spell that lets you restart a battle.
Yeah.
Which I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
That's a really neat flavor.
But,
so yeah, I think he's cool.
Yeah.
Omniscient's cool.
At the end of this, we get our 2 spells, Flare and Holy, which are both really useful, especially if you have a spell sword. At this point, I had Faris with, I had Faris somehow doing. No, it was just dual wield. I forget. I never got her to do the 8 attacks with the spell sword stuff. Yeah, rapid fire with this, but
that's what I am working with, or that's what I was working on for this whole section. I don't think everybody got to it.
Oh yeah.
Just because I was still working people up. Like some people, the thing about, the method I was using to make my rapid fire 8 attack guys was that I would do rapid fire first. So then I could get the fruits of it immediately as soon as I equipped Ninja. as soon as I switched to Ninja, even though I didn't have to master it. So not everybody got to that level in time. And I didn't want to grind at the end. So I did end up having some spell sword 8 attack people who were how I kind of got through the end.
Yes.
Because it was not optimized. But it's very, very useful with Lair and Holy.
Yeah. So the tower goes away. The airship dock is here. We can go in. We find Sid trapped on a gear. Jane stopped this crazy thing.
He's been spinning around since the last time we saw him, which is extremely, like a kind of hell for certain. That I don't think that Sid doesn't deserve.
Right.
And you can get him off the gear, and he changes the airship to make it into an airship that turns into a ship and is a submarine. And we finally, this far in the game, have our final vehicle.
Yes,
that is actually the empowerment moment that lets us go everywhere.
Yeah.
So while all the towns are sucked into the void, we can finally go everywhere.
Yes.
So,
and the submarine will get us to the final 2 tablets.
Yes.
There's a scene where Crow and Mid bond over having influential parents or grandparents, rather.
Aren't grandparents great?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
So the fire tablet, like we said, we need the submarine to get it. It is at the bottom of the sea trench. And this is an underwater magma dungeon that is full of like some of my favorite monster designs in the game. These unknown enemies. These things are hard. Like this feels a little bit like a preview of the Guernica in FF7 a little bit.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, it's they all say unknown, even though there are different types of them, and they're all these kind of eldritch monstrosities, which I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have strong resistances, it's really, really tough, general random encounters. Yeah. This is where you find the Dwarven Village that sells you good armor, and will also tell you where you can find the Mirage Village as well.
Yep. And just kind of a nod to 4.
Yeah.
Your rally hose. And stuff. Yeah. Which is, good.
Yeah.
I don't mind dwarfs in a Final Fantasy. I think they look cool.
Yep. Goodbyes. Goodbyes. Good guys. I love their rambunctiousness. But yeah, this is just a big dungeon, leans on lava floors. So you gotta cast float, or have a geomancer, to get around without taking damage every single step. And when you get to the end to grab the fire tablet, you're attacked by 3 of the dipshits at once: Triton, Nereid, and Phobos.
Yes. All the water themed ones came down here.
Yes.
So, this game's kind of attempt at doing the Magus sisters. Yeah. This is their Magus sisters.
They even do the Delta attack.
They do the Delta attack, and you want to keep them. This is another Final Fantasy V. Because anybody who falls, they'll get revived. It's like the Magus sisters if all 3 of them had the same role. So instead of you fighting a cool D&D party, it's just another Final Fantasy V, even out your DPS. Because they'll continually do that Delta attack. You can tank it. It's difficult, but you can tank it, and you kind of have to. Yeah. Right? Because otherwise, if you take them down, they're just going to come back.
Yeah. The saving grace for fights that are like this is when something is brought back, it is not brought back at full health.
Yes. Yeah. So you can still bring it down, but it still does feel like you're spinning wheels a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
To take guys down. So tanking Delta, as best you can, and keeping your DPS even is a good strategy for this. So even if you do take off somebody first, it won't be long before you can take all 3 of them out.
Yeah. These are the guys who call you pigs, which I didn't get. Also, they look like Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, they're pretty gross. It's so weird that this dungeon is full of actual really creepy kind of H.R. Giger-esque monsters, and then you run into these things.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is the water tablet, which we get from the waterfall. Good on this game for putting something behind a waterfall. Never put a waterfall in your game if there's not something behind it. I mean that.
Yep.
If you're doing that, you've really fucked up.
Yeah. Agreed. So, I have nothing else to add. So you go here. The gimmick is that you've got to get around these terraced floors that have one-way waterfalls on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of townberries here. I think this is where townberries came in. Actually, I know that because I read about their creation. I'm pretty sure. I can double check that, but I remember there being an anecdote about their creation.
What was the anecdote?
It was about what were they? They were based on something. They were based on I can't remember now. I just remember reading. I might have dreamed it. I don't like. I've got like Final Fantasy V and the research for Final Fantasy V are all whirling like a maelstrom in my brain. You know, and the only thing that will make me free is another 45 minutes in which we stop recording.
Yes.
And then I will be free for the summer.
Yeah, you will forget about it for life. Tonberry, the first appearance is in Final Fantasy V, and so, I do not see the provenance.
If it wasn't what they were based on, it was just a little story about the idea.
Yeah.
Like about them getting closer and stuff, because they're cool.
Yeah, they're just
like, I love Tonberries.
The idea of something that carries a lantern and a knife and approaches you slowly and kills you feels yokai as fuck to me. It feels like it would have been pulled from some kind of mythology.
Or just like any kind of stalker, right? Like it's just kind of like a stalker kind of slasher character almost.
Yeah. I forget if it was in which translation, if it was the Final Fantasy V or maybe it was Final Fantasy VI. The translation that was on the PS1, these things were called dingleberries, which is absolutely a piece of shit that clings to your ass hair.
Yeah, that's in Final Fantasy V.
Gotcha.
For the PS1. Yeah, that's unacceptable. It's like not acceptable by any stretch.
Like stop the presses. Like you should be able to press a button that like just completely like just causes a blackout in the game factory.
Yeah, like hitting that button at the newspaper like stops the presses and just
it'll take hours for us to undo this.
4 hours. This is the kind of thing that these localizers should be fired.
Yeah.
Like the second you make a creature called a dingleberry and it's like, well, okay.
They should be excommunicated.
Yeah, like, okay, Beavis. The Pope no longer loves you. Get on here. Like, you're done, Beavis. You're done. Pretty grotesque.
Al Groton. Yeah.
Yeah. So you take the tablet. A lot of times they're letting you take the tablet and they're ambushing you. Good thing that you didn't cast teleport. Leviathan appears in order to fight off the monster that Exdeath sent, which is kind of great.
Yep.
Then Leviathan, for honor reasons, decided to fight you.
Yeah. Well, you can just go. You just go talk to him and he's like, hey, you want to fight? I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. But you have to prove yourself because that's what we're dealing with here. And you can fight Leviathan.
Mm-hmm.
So extremely tough if you don't have coral rings.
Yes. You do not have the advantage of float giving you immunity to his tidal waves.
Yeah. It does not.
Yeah, that was the case in 4. Tough fight.
A really tough fight. Does tons of damage. Like coral rings will make him, will basically make somebody almost invincible.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get this
keep on healing. Yeah,
he'll keep healing you. So it's not the only attack he does, but it does make it very hard for him to hurt you.
Yeah.
We get our whip, our bell, and our our harp, the final tablet, and now the void to Tycoon is open.
Mm-hmm.
A scholar runs up to us as we're doing this and says, like, an earthquake opened up to the south. A new rift is opened, and we can go there to get 3 of the new jobs. This is GBA Advance, or Final Fantasy V Advance content.
Yes, I believe this is also true in the mobile and Steam versions as well.
Yes.
So
we should talk about these new jobs.
We ought to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in disclosure, I didn't truck with this playthrough. I have before.
Yeah.
Like in my other GBA save that stalled out, like on the final world, I have these.
Yeah.
And they are cool. I just haven't messed with them. Like I didn't need to, and I was ready for the game to be very done.
You get them incredibly late, is the thing.
Yeah. It would have been very nice to get these at the beginning of World 3.
Yeah.
I think because it'd been a while since you got a new job at that point. You didn't get any during your World 2. So one of them is the Gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
The Gladiator is a strong fighter character.
It can equip a lot.
Yeah, can equip almost everything. And their signature skill either does max damage, no damage, or an elemental attack at like roughly even odds. And those odds get more in your favor the more you level up the job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So high risk, high reward. The risk is doing nothing. It's not like the Oracle, which is explicitly about that.
Yeah, the Oracle is a lot more interesting than the Gladiator, I think.
Yes. The Cannoneer is an offense-oriented version of the Chemist.
Yes.
Yeah. So you get new weapons that you actually can buy ammo for. You have different kinds of ammo, and you mix those with different items that you find. Similar to like dark matter and dragon fangs and stuff that you've been getting in
turtle shells.
Yeah, turtle shells that you've been getting in uninteresting treasure chests throughout the game. And yeah, lets you do a bunch of different kinds of attacks. This is real interesting. It is fiddly in a way that the chemist is, so I can imagine this appealing to the same people.
Yeah, it's fiddly, but with like a more restrained outcome.
Yeah.
As opposed to the chemist, which can give you really weird buffs you can't get other ways. You get things like double your level and stuff like that as a chemist. Here, it's mostly damage and different types of damage, some status effects.
Yeah.
So interesting, and can be very potent, but I couldn't make room for my party. The Oracle is the most interesting of these.
Yes.
Who is a caster of sorts, who does things that either it's very similar. There's a job like this in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance as well.
Yeah.
Where things can either work for you or against you when the spells. They're very powerful, but they can either hit everyone or just hit the enemy. Yeah.
I love the flavor of this, which is that they can see the future and they can understand probability. So like when you try to invoke this, it's like, okay, if they stand here, they're going to become a frog.
Yeah. Very neat. Like very like it's similar. It reminds me of like the Scarlet Witch in the comics.
Yeah.
Super cool. Again, great flavor.
But yeah, it's either condemn or it's predict, and both of them have the ability. Both of them have the potential to hit your party or the enemies themselves. For the Oracle, so mastering them does not take a lot of AP. And generally for any caster, it doesn't hurt to do this because they have one of the highest, like, just boosts to different caster-based skills if you're going to be rolling around as a freelancer. Additionally, their final ability is Look Ahead, which just gets rid of random encounters. So that's why I may sound a little bit more sunny about the game from this point forward, because I spent an episode of Chernobyl just grinding Kryle up with this. So I could run around with impunity.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
To in this game to get rid of those. Yeah. Because they are just a really really
I was already powerful enough by this point,
Yeah. So. Do you have in the notes Necromancer?
No, Necromancer comes later. Necromancer is ridiculously
late. The post game, yeah. I thought so. I just want to make sure, just because I've never gotten the Necromancer. So I only kind of know what it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's later. So these are the three you get now. We have some optional content we can do before going into the big final set of end dungeons.
Yes. And most of these involve getting your summons, really.
Yes.
But the first one here is to get your last class, aside from the Necromancer, I suppose. The last of the base classes. So you remember back in Wall's Tower, when that crystal shattered, one of them was up on a ledge. And you couldn't get to it. Well, we're going to go back and get it.
Yep. Because now the tower is sunk, so we can go grab it. It's sunken, and we get this, and we had to fight Go-Go. Also in Final Fantasy VI, who is a mime who does this kind of rhyming riddle when you run into him about how to beat him, about like how great mimicry is.
Yes. He's a consummate showman, this Go-Go.
Yes, absolutely. And the trick is to do nothing. It's again, like something that would have been extremely clever if not for the Dark Knight paladin fight, right? So in this one you have to do nothing, which is defending.
Yes. He's
doing nothing, so you have to do defending. You have to do nothing.
Yeah. And he finally says, perfect mimicry. I did nothing and you did nothing, so you understood. You understand mimicry, so you can get access to this class.
Yeah, he's lying too. There's this weird thing where he says he'll do whatever you do, but when you attack, he just does this incredibly powerful counterattack that isn't what you did. It's like okay, go. Yeah.
So this is probably a little bit stressful because when you go into the tower, it's underwater, so you have a 7-minute time limit. Bartz says, "Okay, I'm gonna have to hold my breath, and I think I can hold it for exactly 7 minutes."
Yep, and then you can open a chest, and he can go, I can hold my breath for 7 more minutes and re-up your 7 minutes.
Yes.
So yeah, it's funny. So you get mime. Mime is cool. It's like Freelancer, except you also have the mime command that you can do, which allows you to do the same thing that was just done for no cost.
Yeah,
basically.
And you can also reassign. You're not stuck with either attack or the item. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can get rid of those, which is great because if you have rapid fire, you never need to attack, or even if you have aim.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why would you ever attack? Because aim never misses. So yeah, mimes are cool. Yes. Mimes are good.
Yeah.
If you go to the Jackal Cave, and you can get it through there, you can get into the Ball Castle basement, where you can fight Odin.
Yes.
And he does a timer, like it's another timing based thing. Again, you can kind of see shades of like when the developers talked about they'd become kind of obsessed with these timer based things.
Yeah.
He sets a timer. He's going to do his kill you move.
Yes, in a minute.
He's going to murder in a minute. So you have a minute to kill him as a kind of a DPS race.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool and good. I like that. I like that encounter.
Yeah. And getting him is great. Like he can kill everything in one shot basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's a classification that enemies have that I think is called heavy.
Yes.
Which is when they're immune to gravity, instant death, things like that.
Yeah.
And not everything you expect to have it has it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this is the introduction to if something is resistant to Zantetsusken, he will throw Gungar.
Yeah, he'll do some damage, which is a great, that needs to be the case.
Yes. Yeah.
You
can go get Phoenix at the Phoenix Tower. You've got to ride the Black Chocobo over to this desert that has no place for your airship to land to get in here. The tower is interesting. I eventually just looked up a fact to see which way to go because I was on no random encounters, so I didn't even want to have punishment encounters. It's 30 floors, and to move forward without getting an encounter, you've got to examine the correct wall panel. To move upward. And
a monster pops out.
Yeah.
When you do so, and then you fight the monster, and that lets you go to the panel up there.
Well, no, the monster only pops out if you do not if you hit the wrong one. Yeah, if you hit the right one, then you just go forward. Phoenix kind of sucks in this game.
Yeah, I didn't do this. I just read about it.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't need this summon, and I need this game to be over. So I did not do this.
Yeah. Phoenix only revives one person while doing damage to the enemies.
So it's probably worthwhile fire damage.
Yeah, but it's also like incredibly costly.
Yeah, it's really expensive, and even with a gold hairpin, even with half MP,
it's like 50. It's 50 with a gold hairpin. So
which is quite a lot. And then you're also giving up your head slot to a gold hairpin, which you might be doing anyway, but doesn't have good stats.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But you get to the top, and this is where Hiryu the Windrake sacrifices himself to turn into Phoenix.
Yeah.
And this is where you get the flashback again, more hand-wringing about the Windrakes. Lenna's mom is sick and she hears that the Windrake's tongue will cure her. So she goes out and the stable master says like, oh, if you do this, you're going to kill the last Windrake. You're given a choice regardless of what you do. She doesn't do it. So you can decline out of your own conscience, which is the right thing to do. If you say yes, the King of Tycoon comes out and like slaps you.
Yeah, it's like, don't cut out the Windrake's tongue to save your mom.
Yeah.
Even though, right, like arguably, I don't know, the moral arithmetic is not quite as black and white.
Yeah.
For this, I think. Mm-hmm. Like if it's like this person, it's like your mother. Mm-hmm. And there's this animal. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love animals.
Yeah.
But I'm not. Yeah. So it is. It's a weird little scene, but it's it's good. Once you do it, then the. We got Phoenix, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
And we can also go fight Bahamut.
Yes. Go up to North Mountain, which is unchanged except for when you get to the top. You just have a really tough fight with Bahamut, usually incredibly hard because he's got his Mega Flare that comes out. I only survived this by having jumpers.
Yep. Another timed kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So now we can go to the final dungeon, which is huge.
Ooh, really big.
This is like one of the biggest. Like this would be like if the moon from Final Fantasy IV was the beginning of that dungeon, like the whole moon almost. Like this is so huge. There's so many bosses.
Yeah, I think the only dungeons we've played the only game that we've played that has dungeons that are bigger than this is Phantasy Star 4. Yeah.
I don't know that like bigger. Like maybe as big, but like I don't know, bigger. This is really big.
It's incredibly big.
Yeah, this is a huge dungeon. And it's got a cool flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea is this is different areas that have been pulled into the rift.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that like surreal landscape. Like you go through a door and you enter into another biome.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah.
I am not as warm on this because I did not grind up no encounters. I just, have 99 ethers and I just do the most efficient, high damaging thing I possibly can every turn. So I can not look at the encounters if I can help it.
Yeah.
Here. But they're never, rest assured, the encounter rate does not lessen here.
No.
You get into a million fights.
Yeah, and you're fighting, like, this is where you're starting to get into the Iron Giants and stuff like that.
Yeah, really tough. Like, random encounters that are like boss fights, where you run into one and you do the boss fight, and then you walk 4 steps into another boss fight.
Yes.
Essentially. It's too much. Like, it again, the flavor, the sugar that we're talking about, the flavor, like, I don't think this is a fun dungeon.
Yeah.
It is hard to do, like the idea of like testing, making a really hard dungeon at the end, like testing your party and stuff like that, makes sense. But it's a different test to be like, can you do this versus can you do this 70 times?
Yes.
And that second is not a good test. I'm not an office chair.
No.
That I'm not a seatbelt.
Yeah, you're not in that vaguely sexual chair torture machine that's in IKEA's.
Yeah, I'm not in the chair torture, like to check how many 70,000 rubs this chair can have, right? Yeah. Like, it's very frustrating. Like, it is cool that it is the final exam, and I had made a very powerful party at this point.
Yeah, like
everyone attacks a lot. I have spell blade abilities to just cast holy 8 times.
Yeah,
for 2 of my 4 guys. Everyone else is really trained up, and it still just like wears on you. It is just this drain of patience and resources, like literal in-game resources, and just like my desire to keep looking at this screen.
Yeah.
That is just like dying from this. More so than other Final Fantasies we've done.
Yes.
For sure.
Absolutely. And it's a bummer because the bosses here are very good.
The bosses are cool.
This is where our experiences drastically differ, because for me, I got all the flavor and I got all these bosses just kind of in a row without those interruptions. So this is like in a way. Yeah, well, it's like a really good boss rush with like new challenging bosses and things. Like, in a way, this is as close to a perfect experiment you can get to. Here's a world with random encounters and here's a world without them. Yeah,
more like the AB thing. And it's worth noting that the ability to obviate random encounters wasn't introduced until the GBA version.
Yes.
Right? So it's like there's at no point was this an intended part of this experience, the version you had.
Yes.
At every point up until that point, the idea was the intended experience was to just slog through this.
Yeah.
So this definitely broke me. Like, I was already pretty broken with some of these dungeons and this thing, but this fucking broke my enjoyment of this, like in a pretty rough way.
Yeah.
The bosses are good. But they even impact each other though, because like the excitement that I get when running into a boss in Final Fantasy V, which is I get to see the cool design, usually the cool sprite work, listen to one of the better music tracks in the game, and I get to try to figure it out.
Yes.
Right? Like, they're a puzzle. If you're going into that like tired, like no matter how good like a piece of like food is, right? Like, you have like this like amazing, just absolutely delectable like piece of cake, right? It still doesn't sound good if I have eaten an entire bag of cornmeal first.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean the cake is bad. It means I'm not in the mood for cake anymore.
Yeah.
And that's my experience with these fights.
Yeah,
my appetite was spoiled. So yeah, it fucked me up, fam.
Yeah.
Like, I was not happy with it. Even if the bosses are cool and the flavor is cool.
Yeah.
So, and again, we already brought it up, and there are people who are just like, oh, you just don't like grinding. It's like, well, it's just, it's fucking a lot.
Yep.
Like, it was miserable. Like, I'm not making up that I was miserable during it. If people get frustrated by this and they're just like, oh, this is what you always say about it. It's like, yeah, but I was fucking miserable. The choice is either, I act honestly about my experience playing this game, or we no longer do games like this.
Yeah.
That is the choice, because I'm not going to like lie about it. I'm not going to like, if I had a bad time, I had a bad time.
Yeah.
I'm not making up something.
No.
So it's those are the two options. So if you're frustrated, like hearing it, I have some sympathy for you, because I get frustrated when I listen to people rag on stuff that I like. At the same time though, I can't be somebody else.
No.
I can't play this with your hands or with your thoughts or your mind. I got mine. So
no.
Anyway, so we start in the desert. And then that opens up into these mechanical ruins, then a forest. Again, we're kind of moving through these biomes. It's pretty neat. Once we get through the forest, we run to our first boss, Calofistieri.
Calofistieri, not Fistieri. Yeah. I think you turned it from Greek into Italian.
Calofistieri.
Yeah. She's a caster who works entirely in status effects, kind of using Drain as a kill shot. Yeah. It's good. I mean, like status effects, generally fuck you up pretty good, because they end up taking turns. There is no, outside of mix, there is no, just Azuna all, right?
Yeah. It's a move economy tax. Yeah. So this fight ends up being about keeping your DPS up while managing these debilitating status effects and figuring out which status effects you can live with.
Yes.
Like if you get blind on a caster, maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Frog or mini on your fighter? Nah.
Not yet. Gotta address that.
Yes.
And she moves, gets a lot of turns. All the bosses get a lot of turns, move very quickly. So there's a time pressure to all of these.
Yes. Next, you're into these caves, and this is where you can choose to fight Omega. I did not do this time. I did not do Omega or Shinryu. I also did not do the challenge dungeon at the end of this. So, if that is a shortcoming, I apologize.
Oh, well, we're a couple of fake gamer boys.
Yeah.
I did between this and Sekiro, it's a big season for us being fake gamer boys.
No, so. I did these in the past. I've done all the optional content in this game. I just didn't do it this time.
Yeah, I like that they just give you a badge.
Yeah.
In this, there's something kind of incentivizing about that, whereas in 7, you actually get mechanical rewards, which I like. But I can also see the argument of just giving you a badge so you're not tempted to do it for anything other than wanting the challenge of doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
And the system we're bringing to this makes this more... I mean, I feel like this actually is true about the optional bosses in 7 as well, where they're basically puzzles.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out how to optimize the system. But because the system is good in this...
Yeah.
I think these are cool optional bosses. I didn't do it this time because I was out of patience, but I do think they're cool.
Yeah. But with Omega, just it will wreck you. Essentially is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we go to the library. There's another boss within a book here. This is a panda.
Not a
panda.
Panda.
Huggicus.
It's not a panda. It is a panda. APANDA. Apanda.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I was not correcting your pronunciation. I was not doing that. I was making a joke because
making sure it wasn't a singular panda.
You absolutely made it sound like you fought a panda bear.
Well, I don't know what I fought. A panda. I mean, I don't know how it's pronounced.
No, it's fine. You said it the right. Gary, I believe me when I tell you I was not correcting your pronunciation. I was making a joke about fighting a fucking panda. Okay.
I wish we fought a panda.
Does it take him down a peg?
Yeah.
Learn to fuck.
Yeah, learn to fuck, guys. I need you guys to stop being endangered. If I have to get to see your World Wrestling Federation logo one more time because you guys don't want to have babies, just do it for sport. Do it for us.
Yeah.
Have them babies. If I have to manually put your dick in that panda, I will. I will breed you.
It's a threat or a promise.
Yeah. So Apapada. You're fighting a eucalyptus. You're fighting a koala.
Yes.
So this is an enemy where the responses, kind of the counters, depend on whether you're doing physical or magic. And it halves you a lot. Is kind of the gimmick here. So halves your level, which is kind of abstract to see what that is. You see the difference in your immediate stats, but the difference in your strength and your damage, your evasion, things like that are all invisible to you during the fight. So it's kind of hard to see exactly how much impact that's having.
Yes.
But it's rough.
Yeah. Halving your MP is a big deal as well.
Yep.
Yep.
So we move past this into the castle, which has optional bosses kind of as you navigate it.
Yeah. So they're in the dungeon, there are some cells with a bunch of old men just kind of running in circles.
Sure.
Yeah. And each one of these, when you run into it, it has its own optional boss encounter. First with Altaroite, and then halfway through the just an old man in a robe. And at the end, it turns into Jura Avis, which is flying serpent kind of boss. Nothing too special about these, but if you want to get all that dancer gear, you got to fight 6 of them.
Yeah. It's a lot of boss fights, and we haven't had a save point in a while. We have to earn our save point, which is the next thing.
Yeah, by going and fighting Azulmagia.
or blue mage.
Yes.
Azul and Magia. So this boss just uses blue magic. You can get anything you missed.
Yep.
Has all the blue magics in the game.
Yeah.
Basically. Pretty clever. Again, using the game systems. The boss is using the same things that we use. Pretty neat.
Yeah. So this gets you the save point. Good thing to have. And the exit is guarded by another boss, mandatory boss here, Catastrophe, which is a beholder looking kind of guy. Big old orby fella with an eye and tentacles and stuff like that. He's in a cell with a woman. You kill the Catastrophe. It's not necessarily a huge deal. Like if you have float on, you can get rid of you can avoid his strongest attack, Earthshaker.
Yeah, and you're going to want to have float on because there's no detriment to having float.
Yes.
So that's gonna help you a lot with this. So you move up to the throne room, where this woman who is there turns into Halle Carnassus. Who is another strong kind of mage fighter hybrid. Who will do this kill shot when you summon.
Right.
And will cast Holy. So big deal.
Yeah. It's ridiculous when she hits you because she does like 6,000 damage. I think it might be one of the most damaging attacks in the game before you get to the optional stuff.
Yeah, or the optional stuff. Yeah. So very, very, very tough. No real strong gimmick, just like a lot of rigor.
Yeah. So the way forward to the heart of the rift is on top of the castle here. It is guarded by a big, like Ultima Weapon, Atma Weapon kind of guy, Twintania. You read a book about this guy down in the library with a Panda, which mentions like, hey, like whenever something is charging up for Gigaflare, it's vulnerable to all these things. You got to put that knowledge into practice here, because this is not just a strong melee fight. It eventually decides to start charging up for Gigaflare, and it will end you if it fires off.
I love that you read about this in advance and can read strategies for it. That's something that we obviously we praise Witcher 3 for, right, as something that's cool, and it's something that I was thinking about. Like, I would just love to see in games in general. In the ongoing, this is off topic, but in like the ongoing discussion in the Slack about Sekiro, one of the things that we were talking about, and I thought of, is a solution for the kind of the getting uninspiring pickups in that game. And this could, if you never played Sekiro, this could apply to any video game. Replace that stuff with knowledge. Like if I go into a corner and you can't give me something worth picking up there, have a little note that tells me a boss strategy. Tie in getting boss strategies and like weaknesses and stuff like that. And I think about how many games we've done where weaknesses are really poorly signaled, right? Like we did Salt and Sanctuary, and it's like, well, this guy just happens to be weak against poison, but there's nothing about him that indicates that. That'd be a great thing to like find in the world. Like make exploration tied to knowledge. And I just don't see that very often in games. Like you just end up with these esoteric things. You have to look on a wiki or look online to find weaknesses. And this is a cool example of that happening very early on. In games. And I think that's a cool, just kind of basically a cool design thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you read this, okay, like I was like, maybe I'll forget this, maybe I'll remember it, maybe I just get this flash of inspiration as I come up against this horrible, deadline within this fight. It's a good like dramatic moment. Cool fight. Dramatic moment of inspired mastery.
So this afterwards, we are able to actually move into the void. Gilgamesh stands on this portal. And he's there for dialogue. Like he hates that he's trapped here. We tell him how to get out. And he's like, hey, once this is over, we can be buddies. So that's all, buddy. Thanks, friend.
But I love that he's standing right by the exit, just talking about how much it sucks here. Like it's cold. It's cold.
Try walking that way.
New York's that way, my good man. So this is good. We can send him on his way. There's a chest in the next area that contains Shinryu, another optional boss fight. It will wreck you in different ways than Omega does. And there's I know if you like I said, I also went through into these optional things. I think it is cool that they're there. Just because I didn't do it this time doesn't mean I think they're not good. Something that is good about this, when you open up the chest to fight Shinryu, you can run away. I just oh fuck, I'm not ready for this. I've got to be level 50 plus for this. Probably I'm like level 45.
Well, and have a very specific party. Like, it's not a very improvisational fight.
No,
like, you have to have kind of stats worked up in advance.
But I just tried to run away, and I could.
Yeah. Yep. Which makes sense for somebody who's inside a chest.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like running away from somebody with their pants around their ankles. Like, of course you can run away from them. He's got 2 chests around his ankles.
Yeah.
If you ever interrupt a boss shitting, like, you're golden.
Yep.
You know?
The Viva La Bam or JRPG.
Yeah.
All the bosses you interrupt shitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So
that's why it's Bam Major, Bam Majera, Bam Marijaga. So yeah.
Oh, man. So there's a save point here that is also guarded by a sorcerer. And this ends up being like weirdly a story significant optional boss fight, because Gilgamesh is going to come back, but not before we end up fighting Necrophobe and the Barriers.
Yes.
My favorite new wave band.
Yep. And Necrophobe is a good, like, scared of the dead. Okay.
Yes. Voldemort. Yeah.
Yeah. So they all have reflect on them. And you need to take out the barriers in order to make Necrophobe vulnerable, but we can't fight them all with targeted spells because of that reflect.
Yeah.
Once you do enough damage, basically Gilgamesh comes to, like, finish things off.
Right.
And then self-destructs to kill Necrophobe.
Yeah.
So we're not going to become friends out in the real world.
No, and he gives like a tearful goodbye, like saying, "Oh, Kryle, your grandfather loved you. Bartz, I would have loved to fight you again."
Yeah, like, he says something for everybody. Yeah. Lenna, I'm sure you seem nice.
Lenna, keep on reaching for that shining star, girl.
Yeah. Faris, I like your shirt. You know, like, he say something about all these 4 of these characters.
He tells Faris, like, you're gonna have to learn to act like a lady eventually. Like, fuck you.
I forgot. Yeah, he doesn't just make up something anonymous. He says, like, he reinforces strict gender roles. Fuck this guy. Yeah.
Go on, did a 180 on Gilgamesh.
Why does he know that? Like, why does he know that part of her?
I don't know. You know? A lot of gossip around Exdeath shop.
Yeah, he was one of the courtiers. There he was spying. So atop this mountain in the void, we can walk up this mountain to get to Exdeath. Reveals his true form by turning into a tree and sucking more people into the void. Yeah,
because of course we need 5 more minutes of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun exaggerating.
Yeah, it's not 5 minutes, but it is, you know, to your point, like, we've done this, we've seen it, right? So we're stranded in the void. We think we're just going to die, but the spirits of the Dawn Warriors come back, having used their last strength previously, use their last strength to wake us up and return us to Exdeath in order to fight.
Yes. And this gets us to our first phase against Exdeath. Both of these phases are going to play out in the same battle, but this form is Exdeath's kind of, you know, basically head and shoulders sticking out of a gigantic tree. This design is cool and good.
Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, I got no problem with this. And so when you're fighting him, he generally uses White Hole, which kills and petrifies your party members. Yeah. Pretty nasty.
This is a big deal because it's not just using Phoenix Down or Raise to get somebody back. You also have to use Azuna or a Gold Needle. Yeah.
You know, so big inventory tax, and you're having to keep DPS output while you're juggling keeping your party going.
Yeah.
You know, so very, very tricky. You need to be optimized for this. It is really phenomenal to have double cast.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, because just for efficiency, like if you can raise and Asuna somebody, you know, in the same turn, that just makes this a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So my Lenna was a mime who had, you know, white time and double cast on. Like, it made the world of difference for this.
Yeah. And as Exdeath starts taking damage, it starts doing Holy as well.
Yeah.
So again, incredibly nasty.
Yeah. Hoping, you know, just Holy is extremely nasty because basically nothing gives you any kind of, like, you know, benefit against it. You know, you can't really put up a resistance to it.
Yeah. It Reflect works for it, right? Like, I don't have Reflect because I need to Kiraga everybody, but
yeah.
I think Reflect works.
I believe it possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is only the first phase, the Amuse Bouche, before Neo Exdeath turns into this big pile of garbage, like a big pile of colorful garbage sprites.
Yeah.
That I think looks extremely uncool to me.
Yeah. It's like the level of detail seems really inconsistent across the sprite sheet. too.
Yeah.
I know that's a really technical, criticism of this. This is something that we would see later, as you kind of rise up the tower of, Final Kefka, right? Which is, explicitly a big pile of junk and statues and, different monsters and things executed much more artfully there. Right here, it's like 17 different monsters all kind of agglomerated together into what seems to be inspired by like a Hieronymus Bosch painting, but done very inelegantly and inexpertly, it feels like.
One of the reasons why I know that I think that this is not a good boss design is because if I look at art, like fan art of it, it still doesn't look very cool.
Yeah.
It still just looks really, really messy. Like, Exdeath has this kind of like beetle shell at the back. Like, has this insect kind of bee butt. And then there are creatures just kind of coming out of it.
Yeah.
Like, they're not attached as legs. They're just kind of grafted on.
Yeah.
In a way that feels very just kind of sloppy. When compare that to Kefka's Tower, which looked like cancerous.
Yes.
Like, there was a bunch of like flesh colored things all growing out of each other in like a really organic looking way. That just made, I just think was a lot more artfully done.
Yeah.
There's also, and this is a weird complaint because we sometimes complain about the opposite. It's too colorful. Like, it is too many different bright colors that just make it seem silly.
Yes.
Like, there are parts of this thing that came out of him that are organic that are also wearing clothing. That just seems just odd.
Yeah.
To me.
So, there is a justification for this insofar as like this must be all the spirits that were sealed away into the tree that condensed into what Exdeath was. And now that the containment's gone, they are kind of like manifesting as their own kind of expressions on the same, mass or whatever. Poorly conveyed.
Yeah. I just don't think it looks very cool.
Yeah.
And again, comparing with Kefka and then comparing to with, Zeromus, which at least looked like a big space tumor.
Yeah.
Right. Like Zeromus looks like that. And that's fine for me. And of course, like Googling this, just the image of this creature did give me a scene of him and Bartz kissing. So somebody out there read the subtext that I didn't. So like, so somebody was just kind of like, yeah, the developers really wanted these characters to have sex, but didn't trust the audience and couldn't actually express themselves. Like, the subtext is there.
Yeah, it's a nuance that would have been lost on you.
Yeah. I just didn't see it somehow. I didn't think that the smoldering romance between Bartz and Neo Exdeath was really there.
Yeah. This is one thing that I do remember from the anime, like very explicitly, like Neo Exdeath's design of that, like fucking me up as a kid, because it is scary and good there.
It's better.
It's a very similar idea
I haven't
to
seen
this.
it.
Yeah.
So
no, it stuck with me as like I shouldn't be seeing this because it was gore.
Oh, got you.
It was like a big pillar.
Got you.
Gore. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah.
So,
how would you even go about starting to finger Neo Exdeath? Like if the shipping thing
it offers so many opportunities.
I know, but it's like analysis paralysis. No, it's like you're
whatever's
in the center
closest.
Of the
you don't overthink this. You don't overthink true love, Gary.
I guess whichever's closest. Any port in a storm.
Never say port again.
Yeah. Well, there are ports. He has multiple ports and ports and apertures and
again, upload.
Yeah. Lots of places to mount up.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it's also weird that he's this big pile of a dozen monsters, but he has 4 targets.
Yeah.
Like they're zoned. It's just strange.
Yeah.
And this is incredibly tough. I was probably a little underleveled for this, right? Like I had a very strong party that could do Holy a bunch of times, which he doesn't stand up to very long, but he does a lot of like huge total, like he throws out a bunch of meteors and stuff, and does a bunch of debilitating status effects. And through this attack called Grand Cross, which does status effects to the whole party. And depending on what resistances you have and how lucky you are, this is a huge turn tax.
Yeah. One of these could possibly be death as well. Grand Cross, like I had to do these fights twice. Because Grand Cross just gave me a really bad hand. I don't think that this is a really well-designed boss fight, actually, because that can very quickly amount to what feels like instant death or is close enough to instant to not be,
you can't recover.
Functionally different. Yeah.
Yeah. And the rhythm of boss fights in Final Fantasy V so far has included multiple run-ups. Like it's in the DNA to fail. this, fail once or twice, then come back with a different build.
Yeah.
So I get that, right? So I don't think it's like super well designed either. It does feel basically par for the course.
Yeah.
For this, but without as much gimmick. Like I would have preferred something very clever.
Yeah.
To this, like some of the bosses leading up to it, rather than just like, hey, it's another really tough caster.
Yeah.
Physical hybrid.
Yeah, I don't see an obvious way, and this could just be my, me failing to see it, but I don't see an obvious way that either of these final boss fights leans on a knowledge of the job system,
Other than just optimization.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just have to, it's not knowledge of the job system, it's almost like exploring the breadth of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because like having things like you kind of, the way that this ended up working was having, because I reverse or swapped over to mime zone, mime time, then I could not have fight on characters that didn't fight, things like that. So it was about every character being a really wide toolbox for things. So like this is where so I didn't truck around with it earlier or anything like that, but this is where like I had a couple levels of chemist, just enough to to be able to use some abilities from that, things like that, like being able to get these edge cases and stuff. It's not a great final exam though. I agree with that. And I have no emotional connection to anything that's happening, which is the bigger issue. Yeah. Like we talked about Zeromus showing up and it just being a big space tumor and that being unsatisfying in the face of Golbez, right? Who you have a personal connection to and who is a character, even if he is kind of a flat, maniacal character. Golbez gains context through his relationships.
Yes.
Like we learn a lot about Golbez. Like Golbez is is related to you. Golbez is teams up with Fusoya and is tied to the lore and stuff. So like even though the fight with Zeromus is a fight with a big space tumor with your final five, before that you got to see the little cutscene fight with Golbez and Fusoya fighting him and stuff like that. Like there's all this kind of like lead up to it. That what we have here is we have the Dawn Warriors doing a trick that they've already done.
Yes.
To wake us up and give us their final power, and that's it. Yeah. So it's like it's worse in every way that it can be worse. Like I don't think it's a very good fight, and the flavor at this point that's supposed to be the most dramatic. Like yes, you're fighting for the fate of the world, but not it's not an interesting fate of the world.
Yeah, it falls flat when it falls flat at a crucial moment.
Yes. I just don't care enough about the stakes for this to feel cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't particularly care for this, and I just got through this like really really long annoying dungeon.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So. We take him down.
Yep. Exdeath goes down, and we get a crawl. Of a story about the void, explaining how the void is eternal. However, we've got these four essences represented and embodied by the crystals that will always exist to counterbalance the nothingness.
Yep.
And our heroes wake up, in the void of space. They're like, okay, well, we solved this, didn't we? The void should be gone. They need to relinquish their crystal shards to kind of like reestablish the order, and reconstitute the seal against the void. So that's what they
all
do.
Of that grinding you did was for nothing. It all goes back.
Yeah, gotta pull their materia.
Yep. To seal the void away again. The Dawn Warriors show up again, the spirits, and King Tycoon appear and make a new wind drake to fly you back. Like this is now I think the fourth time the Dawn Warriors have used the last little bit of their juice.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
They're very miserly.
Yeah.
How many smokes you got left? Oh, it's my last one. You've been smoking your last cigarette all day, man.
Yeah, come on. This flies us back to Bal Castle, where we get kind of our epilogues.
Yes.
And see what the characters have done. So Bartz continues to wander. That's what he's been doing. That's what he will continue to do. Everyone ends up back where they started, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, except for Faris. Kind of.
Yeah. Even though she does go to like hang out with her pirate friends. Like, yes, she's presiding over a tycoon, but she like moonlights as a pirate.
She's Pirate Batman.
Yeah. Basically Pirate Batman. So she ends up mostly where she was. Yeah. Krylie, is the Queen of Baal. So she inherits the thing. And Boku's it's Boku's leaf and poops out dozens of eggs.
Yeah. So, and then they hatch immediately.
Yep, the clutch is released.
Yeah.
And the multitude swarm.
She walks across the entire screen, leaving eggs behind her like one of those little domino machines. When she gets to the end, all of them hatch in a row, and then like they look on proud and then wave at the screen.
Boku falls back and a dust cloud pulls up like, whoa, like a cartoon.
And this is all done in front of the pirates.
Yeah, they love to watch, dude. Yeah. They love to watch.
Miracle of birth, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't. The miracle of birth is not fun to watch.
If you're not going to treasure life, I don't know what the fuck your point, like what your point is.
I'm more into the null.
Yeah, okay.
I'm more into the void.
All right.
Build a game around me based on that.
And things end with a big montage and in memoriam of Galuf.
Yeah.
Throat slit.
Yep.
Crowd goes. What's that?
No, I was just laughing.
Yeah. Crowd goes to visit the guardian tree to lay down some flowers. She complains about feeling alone. And I guess all the others were just waiting to ambush her. They were just up in the limbs, and they dropped down to comfort her. And Galuf's spirit causes weird cake album. Galuf's spirit causes the flowers to turn into a field of flowers, and so now we can all be together.
Yep. To do nothing in particular, just kind of be friends, I guess.
Yeah, right around chocobos over the credits.
Yeah, Bartz really needs to have something to do.
Yes.
Like, I'm really surprised that they didn't be like, hey, you could be our royal guard or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
like something.
Go back and be the mayor of Licks.
Yeah, there's 6 towns in this world, man. I don't know what you're riding around to do. Like, it's just grinding. Like, his life is a post game of grinding up freelancer.
Yeah.
How sad is that?
Pretty sad.
AP. So there is a post game dungeon. So we get kicked back out in the world. The game doesn't end here in the GBA version. Where there is this really huge dungeon. Every enemy encounter is as hard as a boss fight.
Yeah. It's very big. It's very long. So just to refresh myself, I looked at the World of Long plays of this. Pretty much the entire last episode, which is basically this is a dungeon that unfast forwarded or unskipped would be about 3 hours to get through.
Yeah. Yep. The Chalice dungeons of Final Fantasy V.
Yes.
If you just can't get enough Final Fantasy V,
it's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. There's not a lot of text to it.
No.
Moving through the dungeon, you eventually get to the Void, and remember the Enuo, who was introduced and immediately dropped.
Yes.
He's here.
It's like, hey, why have you come? For fortune, for fame? I need to show you the power that the world so feared that they had to seal it away.
Yep. And then you fight him, which we didn't, so I can't really speak to that fight. I'm sure it is just...
It's a lot.
I'm sure it's a lot. Like, more attacks that target more of your party that do more damage.
Yes.
And this portion of the Void falls, and you're sucked into this undersea rift, where the new crystal appears, granting us the Necromancer.
Yeah.
Which at this point, there's nothing really to do.
Right.
There's a boss rush challenge we can go to use the Necromancer. The Necromancer is really powerful.
Yeah.
It has a bunch of, and it's kind of like an interesting blue magic thing. Instead of having an enemy have to use a spell on you, you have to kill an enemy with the Necromancer to gain the attack, and they're always undead.
Yes, so it's kind of like wearing the bone mail all the time.
Yes, but they're cool. Like, they're very powerful. The effects are very powerful. But at this point, you're only doing it for this boss rush mode. Yeah, you get it near at the absolute end of the game.
Yeah. And your ultimate reward for doing all this is to get the Medal of Smiting, which is just
like a trophy.
Yeah.
To prove that you've done it. And then you have done all the things other than maxing out every job, if you want to. And then you can, you've done literally everything on your FF5 Advance card.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's FF5.
Yeah.
Which is something that I was, I pushed to play this for the summer because I wanted something mechanically crunchy, and it is mechanically crunchy. And there are parts where that really works for me, but on the whole, I was really sick of it by the end of it, and the lack of compelling story and melodrama sunk it for me. Overdrew the bank. Like the deposit I made with this cool job system, which is really neat. Go back to episode 1, we talked a lot of sugar about it. I do think it's very cool. Even if they later did better versions of it, I do think this is very cool. Putting it in a contextless void, is just kind of fucked it for me.
Yeah.
I can't think of any good Final Fantasy we've done that wouldn't be improved with this system.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to meld this system onto 4 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
that would make them incredible.
Yes.
Like, and I like the system of 6 actually,
Mm-hmm.
but this would be cooler. This is cooler in that system.
Yeah.
You know, but without something to hang your hat on, without a narrative or characters or things to get invested about, it is just purely JRPG combat, which is 99% random encounters, which are 100% not engagement.
Yeah.
You know, like the bosses are very engaging and cool. Building your guys is very cool. The time I spent in pause menus between battles, setting up my things was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun. The actual act of playing the game by volume was the vast lion's share majority was really pretty tedious.
Yeah. Bad dungeons, too many random encounters, just general things that, we've talked about a lot, but it very much is, like this is a big, important genre that looms large in so many people's minds. And just the reality of them is very disappointing.
To me, it is, right?
Yeah.
Like there are people who react to these episodes and they're just like, hey, I love grinding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love doing that. I love the act of turning off my brain and just kind of tapping through some random encounters. And like there are games I turn off my brain for.
Yeah.
I get it. But to me, the right level of engagement is a little bit more than just hitting setting up my cursor to memory.
Yeah.
And just tapping through to get past things as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say that's what the only thing required.
Yeah, it just for sure, especially like within an area, when you know the general possibility space of the enemies that you're going to get into, it's not enough to induce the flow state. I absolutely understand you chasing that feeling. Chasing the flow. You want to be in the zone. You want to feel just engaged enough to have time disappear. Like I get it. I so get it. But there's just something about the texture of the texture of the dungeons and the interruptive nature of these random encounters that grab you by the neck and wring your attention towards something that's not really worth paying attention to, that stands in defiance of my desire to reach that state.
My ability to.
Yeah.
And cooperates with other parts of it that are on the surface stronger. Mm-hmm. So like the dungeon design in this game I think is really horrible in general. The few times in which it's better, where you have these kind of puzzles or things that might be a little bit more engaging, it's rapidly kind of whipping you between those two states. Mm-hmm. Like I need to pay attention to remember which one of these chutes I went down. Yeah. Because one of them is the critical path, one of them gives me treasure, two of them make me do a section over again. I need to remember what those are. That's anti-flow state. Yeah. That's requiring some attention. It's not a puzzle. It's not like a clever test of my mastery, but it requires some kind of like thought to it, the bare minimum. Getting yanked into this other mode at like just an alarming rate that doesn't require that. Yeah. And having that process that is a little bit elevated being interrupted is like the worst of both worlds. Yeah. Almost.
And this is not just a critique of Final Fantasy V. It's a critique of a whole era of the genre. Yeah. Right? A very long era of the genre. The majority of the genre.
And entries now, right?
Yes.
Like there are games that come out now that don't make this better. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you're like, I have a weakness for the Pokemon games. Mm-hmm. When you play Pokemon games, this happens as well.
Yes.
Like, yes, you might be you're always on the lookout for a new Pokemon you might want to catch when you're in a new area. So it has that element, but
you're going to have to walk through a cave and you're going to find some Geodudes and Zubats. Yep.
And you have to kind of always match this elemental weakness, but you are still like, there's a certain level of engagement that flow state requires. Mm-hmm. And I think, and this is there's no qualitative aspect to this. I think that for me though, what I've discovered is that level is higher than what this genre can typically give me, and even when there are examples of the genre, like, we did Crimson Shroud, right? Yeah. And Crimson Shroud has that one really unfortunate choice of like having that random drop that's keyed to progress. That sucks ass. That's horrible. But what they did was one of the things I was thinking about with this is that like JRPGs are hugely inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, right? Mm-hmm. Like inspired by wizardry, might and magic, dungeon crawls. In D&D, yep. Yeah, the black, yeah, exactly. D&D, there are random encounters. Mm-hmm. But it's such a minor part of the experience. Yeah. Like this, and it's one of the things I like about Crimson Shroud that I wish more games would do is like, what if when you went into a room in a dungeon, there were some skeletons about? and you beat the skeletons, and now the skeletons are gone.
Yep.
And now that room is fine.
Yep. And there may be some event later that brings those skeletons back, but like there is a reason for it. There is a hand somewhere that did this.
It's not just the state of being outside of a town is constantly being assaulted, both as a character being assaulted by these monsters and as a player being assaulted by this attention kind of thing. And I wish they had just taken that rhythm from D&D as opposed to taking this weird, like, compromised approach to it where we know if we made these encounters really tough, that'd be too much. So let's make them really easy. Like really, really easy until the end, like very mindless, and just throw in a bunch of them.
Yeah.
It's not a thing where like 100, 1%, encounters that are 1% good and you have 100 of them doesn't equal 100% good encounter.
Yeah.
Like it's not additive. And it just makes me like yearn for games where they, that have some of the flavor of this, right? So like you take like, I brought up Final Fantasy Tactics a lot during this, and for good reason, right? It's a very close relative to this. That game has the story rhythms of a JRPG, which I appreciate.
Yes.
You are dealing with kingdoms. You're dealing with this hidden threat that is supernatural. You're dealing with this melodrama, but the fights in that game are important.
Yes.
Like you don't go and just like, let's fight the dude. You're like, it's the battle at this forest. It's the battle in this castle. These are important fights where you understand both sides. There's characters involved. It's much closer to like a D&D rhythm to what like the standard era of this JRPG has done, which there's not like a fictional analog to this.
Yeah.
There's not a fictional or other game analog to what the experience of this is like, other than like a clicker, basically like 99% playing a clicker game because that's the verb you're doing.
Yeah.
So there are things that I like about the genre, even in terms of flavor and stuff, that I need to be away from that part of the genre.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like if we, in the future, we do, we talked about Final Fantasy 8 and 9. I would like to do those at some point, probably. I have to do a ROM hack that obviates that, and it's going to be what the interesting thing is, right? Like, so we do that. We will not be able to present an accurate picture of what the game is.
Right.
If you play Final Fantasy 8 on Steam and you turn off encounters and max stat, that's not the game.
Nope.
So it's I don't know. It puts us in a weird position where like, if you're listening to this and you're sick of hearing these same complaints, I'm sick of making them. And like I said earlier, the option is we don't cover this kind of game because this is endemic to the game. And if you like it, if you're like, oh, that's actually good, I like that you can just kind of zone out and do this. I would never take that away from you in a million years. I feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot a little bit with this.
Yeah. We took a break from these by doing Nier last year.
Yes.
And that was not enough time.
That's yeah. And then we did end up doing 10 this year, right? Because we had taken that break. So this was not enough time since 10. 10 had a lot of the same problems, as this had. Like I like 10. I think 10 has more fun combat.
Yeah.
Like not the character build system, but the combat is actually more fun, And I think 10 has a much better plot. Yes. I think 10 has a messy plot, but I think it's a lot better than this. There are other things that kind of carry me through, but I don't, I don't know how to get around this. And it is,
I know the way to get around it.
I don't know. We can
do Final Fantasy 12. We can do 12.
I'm
I'm playing that for fun now. I'm playing it on the Switch and I love it. It solves these problems for me.
I would revisit that. I have a real problem with character growth in that game, but I'd revisit
the Zodiac job system fixes that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I know there's a version I haven't played that fixes it, which is good.
Yeah.
I would give that a shot.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there are other things in this genre that are cool.
Yeah.
That I understand there's. Yeah, Z-Boy. No, not just ones that solve the problem, that have interesting things to talk about.
Yeah. Your Shadow Hearts and what have you.
Yeah, Shadow Hearts, like Final Fantasy 8 and 9, both of which I like, have really cool systems. This main method of interaction is such a big problem for me. And it's not new. I complained about this. Like
we've been doing these for 8 years.
We've been doing these for 8 years. Like Super Mario RPG was like our 4th episode. So these have been baked into and we always do big numbers. Like people like these episodes, and because people love these games. This is something I talked to Will about it, right? So like Will is very he loves these games, and he's very explicit of like, yeah, I will never revisit them.
Yeah,
like I love Final Fantasy 6. I'll just never replay it.
Yeah.
Is his perspective. And he's like, doing that risks it because I'd rather just have the memories of just the good part. I don't want to have the experience of playing it again.
Reasonable.
I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that if you are sensitive to this kind of thing, you know, then that is the only real option.
Yeah. And
you know?
Additionally, you know, who knows if this is me being cynical or this is me, you know, projecting onto people. I have no idea how much of the discussion about these games, you know, be it this series or, you know, any of the other big series, is the result of, you know, people doing that, how much they're talking about their memories as opposed to like sitting down and playing. And that's not me trying to pull some kind of like weird rank where like, oh, we actually play through these games before we talked about them. You know, you don't need to have, you don't like, you don't need to like renew your Final Fantasy V license.
Yeah.
You know, in order to talk about it, like that's fine. But like, you know, just like to understand that like, this is, you know, in a lot of ways a part of our approach.
Yeah.
You know,
it is. I think that there are people who revisit these things and don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
You know, or don't agree with us, our evaluations. There are people who don't revisit and just let those memories set in the vault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, both of those approaches are fine.
Yes.
Like I have nothing, you know, nothing is against, I have nothing against people who don't agree with us about this.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to. But it is something where like, I did feel like a breaking point during this episode where I was like, we can't just do this again.
Yeah.
Like if so, it's got to be a long time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and eventually it's like, well, you know, it's almost like exponential, right? Like we took a year break and then it's like, well, then would we take like a year and a half break?
Yeah.
You know, between these things, I think that to me, the answer is doing things that explicitly avoid it. Mm-hmm. So like 12, I'm fine with. We talked about let us hang together.
Yep.
Let
us cling together.
Let us cling together. Thank you.
Yep.
So like things like that have some of those same rhythms so we can get some of that melodrama, right? And that flavor of the genre without engaging with the actual mechanics of the genre, which no matter what system you put it in or what story you put it in is always a problem. Like I love 6. I liked covering 4 2 years ago. You know, I came to that and liked it. I was like, oh, you know what? I came away with a new thesis on this. Like this is my favorite like melodrama JRPG. Like I think that the story beats and pacing is actually really, really good. You still just spend so much time tapping. And
which one? I'm sorry, 4?
4.
Yeah.
You know, like 4 still has that problem, and it's a really good game. Like it's a really good example of this, you know, but it still is going to have that thing. Like I think that moving forward, you got to avoid that thing. You know, the tappa cannot be.
Yes.
You know, because at some point we are just going to end up making like, I don't know, like it's
ourselves and many other people miserable. Yeah.
People are going to be cranky. Like it's going to be like the people who like are like, oh man, you know, lol, do a Kingdom Hearts off, and it's like that's not going to make anybody happy.
Right.
Like, you know, you may think you're going to want that, but I'm going to be mean and articulate about that game, and you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Like you may not agree with me, but you won't like it. You know. So yeah, I don't know. This was a real breaking point for me. Like this third dungeon, it was a struggle to get through it. Yeah. So despite the cool things, and without this, we wouldn't have Final Fantasy Tactics, one of my, you know, top 5 games ever, like maybe my Desert Island game. I love that game. I have a lot to thank this game, but it does not stand up for me as like a masterpiece that is fun to play. Yeah. So fuck, man. Yeah. Fuck.
I don't know if I have anything else to add. Yeah, we talked about the trade-off in the previous episode. You know, again, that like, you know, having gone all the way through it now, that also, you know, our points remain about the idea that you had to trade good and coherent story for the mechanics. That is, you know, an ex post facto justification that does not actually stand up to any reason to my mind. So
yeah, I don't buy it. And even if it was the case, like even if it was literally transactional like that, I think I'd question whether the transaction was worth it. Yeah, because I like 4 more than I like this game. You know, and I love mechanics. I love crunch. Yep. I still think 4 is a better game because it is possible to care about stakes. Yeah. And there's characters to like areas.
You know, if I'm being honest, I played these games when I was little because of the stakes, because of the story, because of the melodrama. These have always been story first things for me. But it just goes to show it underlines that.
Yeah, you need that story. Yeah. You know, stuff like that. So yeah, ultimately I came back to this and ended up liking it less than I wanted to. And I also would just want, you know, again, like possibly heading off straw man, but also just to say it out loud is I went into this with a really open mind. Like I advocated for this, like Cole can back me up. Like I was like, hey, what do we do? What if we do this year?
Yeah.
Like I wanted to do this. Really wanted to play it.
We had something else in this game's place. And we're not gonna talk about what that is. But we had something else in place. And we did kind of a last minute not last minute. Like by last minute, I mean like it was back in April. And it was hey, what if we do this instead? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'd spent a lot of time since I played that game, et cetera, et cetera. Like this is something that we steered into. This was not a demand from a backer. Anything like that.
Nothing like that. I really wanted to like it, and I went into it with as open a mind as I can have. I just can't get over like the bad dungeons and mindless combat. This just can't. So I'm trying, folks. I know you guys like these games. I know they're important to my background and my history, as well. But it's just I want to leave them in the past, like in a pretty bad way.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that'll mean, but luckily we have a year to figure that out.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. If it is, you have until the 15th.
Yes.
So I think that'll be too late for this episode.
Just by like a little bit.
Not on early release. On early release, you still have time. On regular release, it'll be a little too late. But if you have things to say about Final Fantasy V, and you're on early release, or if you have things to say about Way of the Samurai or Wolfenstein: The New Order, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yeah.
Or our games next month.
So just a reminder, Wolfenstein: The New Order is our premium episode for this month. So everybody will get the on the public feed, you will get the generalities. To get the full feed, go and become a patron. Next month, we are going to be talking about Gunstar Heroes. Oh gosh, what's it called?
Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones.
I almost called it Fire Tactics: The Stones.
I like Fire Tactics: The Stones.
Yeah.
So
Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones, moving into strategy RPGs, which I'm hungry for. That is the crunch.
Yep, I love strategy games.
It's the crunch I crave. And the final game, the premium episode for September, is our episode 250, I believe, Half-Life 2.
Yep. Yeah, big round number. Big game. And I played half of that. I started playing that very early because I was hungry for it. And Half-Life 2 remains awesome.
Yes.
I cannot believe other FPSs like forgot how to do pacing in the way that this proved you could do it.
Yeah. I streamed Ravenholm as part of my series on horror levels in non-horror games.
So good.
And yeah, Ravenholm is incredibly good.
Yeah, that's such a good level. Like, and even just down to like level design and stuff. Things are just like really, really well done in that game.
Yeah.
I wish Valve made games.
Me too.
Still, like they're so fucking good at it.
I wish Valve made games instead of money.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you have to choose, and you don't, because those games made money. Like they could make games and money, or just make lots of money.
Yeah.
And I wish they chose games and money. More money than anyone can spend in a lifetime, or and games, or
a beneficial good for everybody.
Yes, and almost more money than anyone could make in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So that's what's gonna be after the Wolfenstein episode. We'll have our dispatch. If you're a patron, stay tuned for prompts, and that's when we'll be announcing our games for for October.
Yeah.
You know what October is? It's scary.
It's the spookiest month.
It's the spookiest month, so that's gonna be really great. I love October. It's the best time of the year. If you're hearing this, you still have time to get tickets and come out to Duckfest. Go to duckfeed.tv/Duckfest. We would love to see you there. It is a full day of podcast. It is $15. It's ourselves and guests. It is in a historic theater with concessions and air conditioning, and it is going to be a really good, fun time. All of your favorites will be there. We got your Jeremy Greers. We got your Brayton Camerons. We got your Will Hughes. We got your Cole Rosses.
Yeah.
It is going to be an absolute blast.
Yes. Regrettably, we are missing some Duckfeeties people, but, if this goes well, we're going to hold another one in a different location, try and get the franchise up.
Yeah. A couple of people have mentioned that. And the idea is to do these, the soft idea now is if this goes well, is the idea to do these kind of around, right? So if you're like, hey, Cole and Gary never come to my neck of the woods, that's likely because there's not a appropriate gaming convention there, or there's a appropriate gaming convention there that we can't get into.
Yeah.
So we might just throw our own.
Yeah.
And that might, if that tips the hat, if that tips the scales of you coming to Duckfest, like it is kind of contingent on this going well, right?
Yes.
Like us doing this. Otherwise, we might just do our third con during the year instead.
Yeah.
So we would really, really love to see you there. It's going to be our blast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, as we mentioned, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That's how you vote on episodes. That is how you request episodes. That is how you get in your prompts for dispatch episodes. That's how you get bonus episodes. We recently did a couple bonus episodes of Patreon prompts.
Yep.
So just whole extra episodes of dispatch that are available for patrons.
Yeah.
Whole new shows, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. It is a happening place.
Oh. And real quick, because I think I forgot to mention it before, I was recently on an episode of a podcast called The Short Game. Friends of the network, Reagan Kelly, his crew, and I talked about Cadence of Hyrule.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go check that out if you want to listen to that. That was a fun episode. Yeah.
A fun episode about a mostly good game.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically where we all landed on it. Like, it's good. It's just not great.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, and the music's phenomenal.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that was a really fun time. Check them out. They're really great. So support them.
Yeah.
If you're able to.
They've done a ton of episodes, too.
Yeah. They've been around for a long time. They just started a Patreon as well. So if you have a couple bucks, throw them a couple bucks as well.
They do good work.
And they do really good work. Yeah. Friends of the show. So, and I think that's probably about it.
Think so. Thanks everybody for going through this with us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Watch out for context.
Watch out for context and Neo X context. So
Ex Bassa.
Ex Bassa.